Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham and this, of course, is the Mike Graham Show, as you can see from the sign behind me. I was really a little bit tardy coming to you this morning because I was too busy writing on the chat on YouTube that we were going early. So that'll teach me, right? Just as I was writing, we're going early. Elena hit the on button and here we are. What a beautiful day. What a beautiful time to be alive. It is Monday the 17th of August. There's an awful lot of news to talk about. Emma Woolf is going to be here, but Emma Woolf is not here in person today. She's actually down the line from a foreign field, which we're quite excited about because we haven't really done that before on a Monday. So give me a shout when she's ready, because she might not have expected us to go as early as we have. We've got lots to talk about though, because we're still basking in the glory of what we did down in Clacton last week when we had that exclusive interview with Nigel Farage, which pretty much went viral. The number of people that have watched it now is extraordinary. I mean, we're talking 500,000 people watching the collective shows from Clacton. Also, the book sales still continue to go well. Fake news, you haven't got it yet. There it is. It is still available on Amazon. It's still it's number one for a while. I don't think it's number one at the moment, but it's still in the top 5. So it's gone really, really well. Very excited. I've already started work on the second book, which will be out probably in a couple of months' time. I've been talking to Mike Fairclough, the publisher of Free Press Publishing, and he's excited about the new book, which is called Total Control, which brings me to the total control that we are now being put through by this lousy government, right? Because I don't know about you, I didn't get an alert on Friday night, but my son did, because he hadn't switched off all of his severe alerts, you know. And suddenly we're sitting out in the garden, having a glass of wine, chatting, listening to a bit of music. Suddenly this noise goes off. And I'm thinking to myself, if you didn't know what this was and you weren't of a reasonably cheery disposition like me, or you were driving a car, or you were trying to have a sleep, or you were in the middle of, I don't know, painting the ceiling or something. Bit of surgery, yeah, possibly. Shaving the dog, shaving something else, I don't know. You might suddenly jump, you go cut yourself. Anyway, or making love to your lover or something. You don't want that kind of noise interfering. Sorry, is that an old-fashioned word?
Really old-fashioned.
Is it? What's wrong with lover?
Your lover.
What's wrong with that?
Hilarious.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't even know how funny I am. The other big news is we managed to rescue the T-shirts and the merchandising, right? If you want wallpaper, look at this. We can get some of these. Now, we've got a new website, which we haven't really been doing much with up until now, but we've got a big day to come as well here, because UK Live Online is it's a soft launch, as we call it in the business, I think. Yeah. We've got Littlewood and Cox, of course, coming on at 10 o'clock. Great show. Followed by Ellie Hodges, who is here pretty much now, 4 days a week?
4 days.
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Sarah says, good morning to the best breakfast show ever, looking very dapper this morning. Well, I've got one of course, Jeff Banks's ties, which I thought looked quite nice, with a pink shirt, a bit of stripiness going on for a while. So we've got big news on the UK Live front. I couldn't get your book on Kindle, says Peter. Well, it's available on Kindle, and it's cheaper on Kindle than it is in real life, so try again. Unless they've sold out of Kindle, but I don't think that's possible, is it? Because it's electronic.
No.
That's
user error.
Yeah, you can't. User error. We're being told by Pooch, who came in to fix the system here because it was a little bit slow in firing itself up this morning. But anyway, here we are. We've got loads to talk about. Not just about the emergency alert, because believe it or not, the emergency alert was given a warning by the Cabinet Secretary, who basically said, why is the emergency alert being used, and don't use it too often because people will just switch it off. And of course now, after Friday night, that's exactly what everybody's done. And guess who was in charge of deciding to make the emergency alert go out? It was
Convicted criminal.
The convicted criminal, Louise Haig, or as she's known by Intel Lady, as Phones for Lou. Right? This woman who loves a phone, right? Loves a fraudulently obtained phone, loves a phone scam, loves to be able to report phones stolen when they haven't been stolen, likes the idea of firing up your phone on Friday night, apparently. So I don't know about you, and I'm assuming that will be in Leicester or somewhere like that, right? Firing a load of fireworks up into the air. I mean, you'd think the old fire police might be round to say, excuse me, that's possibly not the greatest idea you guys have ever had. But of course, we know nothing will happen because it's why? It's Pakistan Independence Day, and they get special pass. So as many fires as they like. That's fine. That's not a problem. But if you try to put a barbecue on to cook a couple of burgers and a sausage or two, the old police would be round in a second. And they'd be very happy to take you away and lock you up for a very long time on the grounds that you're white and you've just tried to start a fire. But I was just trying to cook my dinner. No, I'm afraid we're going to lock you up. Other than that, we've got other things going on. Water is a big story this morning because, of course, the front page of the Times says that there's a ban on car washes and private swimming pools looming. Now, I don't know about you. I don't have a private swimming pool. Anybody here have a private swimming pool?
Yeah, I do.
Actually, Pooch has got a private swimming pool, but it's not here, though.
No.
It's somewhere else.
No, they're not banning it.
They wouldn't ban it there, would they?
No.
Because people just wouldn't
They'd
pay any
riot.
attention. Well, people in France just wouldn't pay any attention.
No.
They just go, yeah, fine, whatever. Car washes you can ban, I suppose. That's easy enough. But I drove past a car wash down in Sussex, actually, at the weekend. I've never seen it so busy. There was loads of people there. And it says, so here's the poll for today. What did you use water for this weekend? And you feel free to tell me some other use that you might have had. Did you shower with a friend? Number 1. Did you wash the car? Number 2. Did you water the garden? Number 3. Or my personal favourite, did you mix it with some whiskey? And just a pipette of whiskey is all you need.
Isn't it?
It's just a little droplet and it brings out the flavour of the whiskey. Now, there's a Rod Stewart story which I'm going to try and find for you because I'm told that there was a picture at the weekend whereby somebody put a drone up over his house and here it is. I don't know if this is current.
Clarkson defends him.
Oh, really? So have you got it?
I've got the story.
Oh, here you go. Apparently, yeah, Jeremy Clarkson defends Rod Stewart in a row of his lush green lawns. So Rod Stewart and his wife Penny have faced questions about their lush green lawns at their Grade 2 listed Essex mansion amid widespread hosepipe bans. Well, why?
The grass police.
We're now having our grass policed. Is that what we're doing? So, I mean, also, what about these new privacy laws you're supposed to have? So somebody puts a drone up and takes a picture of your house.
Yeah.
Is that allowed? Shouldn't be allowed, should it?
If it is, because it's public.
Well, yeah, except that it shouldn't be because the rule used to be, yes, you can take pictures of people in public, but your house and your grounds are not public. So you can't, there used to be a law that said as long as you were standing on public land as a paparazzi, you could take a picture into somebody's private property. But then they stopped that and they said if it's private property, you can't film it, right? So technically speaking, I think that would be an infractione of the law.
Yes.
But, I'm no legal expert, but I'm quite a good legal expert. We're trying to get Emma Woolf lined up, I think. Are we having? Is she here? Oh, she is here. Now, I don't know if Emma wants us to reveal where she is. She may not, but she's certainly in somewhere where the sea is. And she may also not want to, do want to put a picture up. We've got a picture of her in the sea. Does she want us to do that? Because she sent it to us. Is she happy with that?
Yeah, whack it up.
Whack up the picture of her in the sea. There you go.
Hey,
there she is.
nice.
With Ludo. That looks beautiful, doesn't it? Very cooling. Now, wherever that is, and it's up to you, Emma, very good morning to you, whether you want to tell us.
Morning.
Morning. How nice to see you. That looks amazing. The sea is so blue.
And honestly, that's at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. And by 9 a.m., obviously, south of France, completely rammed with people. We had to wake up, we had to rouse an old fisherman. We roused him, don't worry. We roused an old fisherman to take the photos.
I was going to say, who's taking the pictures?
Well, exactly. And he's not very sort of au fait with technology. So I was impressed that he managed to get us a photo.
Well, it's nice. It's a lovely scene, and it's beautifully actually framed. So he's not as hopeless at it as you might think. But you could always zoom in on it if you want a closer up look. But don't go mad. It's early in the morning, So anyway, listen, good to see you. Strange not to have you here on a Monday morning. But there's an awful lot. Are you having a good time in France? How's the water police in France? Because here they've gone mad.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of ocean, and obviously they're managing the water a little bit better.
Right.
So we are literally in the water all the time. I also have to apologise in case there's a young man who wants to discuss Andy Burnham. If he walks into frame, obviously you will understand that. It doesn't normally happen at Vox Studios,
no,
or at your studios, but it might happen once in a while.
That's fine. Absolutely no problem at all.
It's wonderful. A bit like when you went to Cyprus, you get that perspective of just how broken Britain really is and how, I don't know, how odd everything has become in the UK just over the past few years. So
Yeah.
that's a bit
Well, I
weird.
mean, I know you've seen some of the headlines this morning, but I mean, some of them are just ridiculous, aren't they? The idea that somehow the water companies have now been given permission to surge price water so that if you need it, which of course you do in this kind of weather, they're going to be able to charge you more money for it.
Mike, did you see this stuff over the weekend? Water firms to charge more in droughts. Basically, like Ubers, they can impose surge pricing and they can factor in water scarcity into our bills as part of a drive to reduce consumption. So this is control. This is what you write about, state control
Yeah.
and price and charging people water more. And I've always said, stay away from the smart meters. Don't let them install. If they come around, which they've done to me about 5 times over the past decade, when they start trying to install water meters, that's when they really, really contract you. Water is a basic human right. We get a lot of rain in the UK. Why on earth can't we build some reservoirs, collect the rainfall that we do have, stop the billions and billions of gallons every year of leaks, and deal with the sewage and the raw waste that's floating around our coastlines?
Yeah, and stop paying these characters who don't seem to be able to run basically a party in a brewery, shall we say, millions and millions of pounds a year to run a company badly, giving its shareholders not really very much back at all and completely screwing the customers. It's unbelievable.
The bonuses that those fat cats receive are off the scale, aren't they? The Thames Water, the SSE, or whatever they're all called. They really, really take the mickey for failure. It's literally bonuses for failure.
Absolutely right. And of course, talking of government control, I don't know whether you had an alarm that went off on Friday night, and I don't know if it does go off.
I missed the fun.
Oh, you missed the fun. I mean, I didn't have it because I seem to remember that they tried all this during COVID, and I switched all of my alarms off then, and so mine did. But one of my sons, we were sitting out in the garden on Friday night, and suddenly this noise happened. We were like, "What the hell's that?" You know, and then he got it again. He got it twice, and it now turns out that Louise Haig, the woman who likes a phone alert from time to time, is the woman responsible for making the decision to send out an alert. And it's not an alert. What are they telling us about? They're saying it's very hot. Please be careful you don't start a fire.
Right. So, few things. I bet Louise Haig's secret drawer must have gone crazy with all those alerts going off on all those different phones that she's lost over the years. I loved what Pooch put out a really good tweet, actually, about turning off all the notifications on all the BS that they tried. And I did actually go into my phone. I didn't get the notification because we're not in the UK, but I was reading about people swerving all over the motorways, people literally calling the emergency services. So effectively, they not only impelled or motivated a lot of people to turn off these BS notifications, they also practically caused kind of pile-ups on the on the M25 and stuff like that. Also, it was the Tories who introduced this notification system, and it's meant to be for imminent, localized threat or threat to life, danger to life. They're actually sort of taking advantage of people. They're weakening the system. They're crying wolf. You can't start messaging emergency alerts to people about not using your barbecue. What's it going to be next? Don't use too much water. Did you take too many showers today? Do this, do that. Turn off your electricity. Don't use your washing machine more than once a week. This is exactly the Burnham playbook, isn't it?
It is absolutely ridiculous. And the story in the Telegraph this morning, which says an official Cabinet Office report actually warned that overusing mobile alerts would undermine public confidence in the system. And as you say, it was only intended basically communication should be used for lower level disorder. Low level disorder doesn't qualify. It should not be used too frequently and only for the most serious of emergencies, or recipients may become complacent. And that's not a serious emergency. The fact that you might have a barbecue is not a serious emergency. I mean, guess what? We actually had a barbecue on Friday night. I had a very nice hamburger. I put some cheese on it. I had some onions, some tomatoes. I put some mayonnaise on it on the side. I had some chips. I had some coleslaw. And guess what? The house didn't burn down.
Yeah, but next thing you'll be getting an alert saying, have you had too much red meat this week?
Yeah.
I know. Step away from the barbecue. Red meat is a major part of climate change, whatever. This is the thing. And absolutely, it should be used. The Tories have said that they introduced them, they devised the system a decade ago, and they were only intended, these alerts were intended for imminent, direct, and localised threats. So, you know, there is a zombie apocalypse in your neighbourhood, or, you know, there has been a major incident wherever, everybody needs to stay indoors, that kind of thing. Not hectoring warnings about barbecues, and this is exactly what the government is starting to do, and I think a lot of people object to this.
Yeah. Well, I don't know whether you saw that video that we played just before you came on from, I think it was Leicester or somewhere, Pakistan Independence Day, where they're firing rockets up into the sky. You know, they've got all sorts of fireworks. Well, that's not safe, but I bet you any money that nobody from that organisation that did Pakistan Independence Day is going anywhere. They're not going to get arrested. They're not going to be told, don't do that again, because everyone's too frightened of doing it. But maybe we could have a massive emergency alert for all of these North Africans who seem to be still flooding into Ceuta down on the north coast of Morocco.
Mike, can I tell you something? We're in the south of France, and normally when we're here, I would happily go down to the ocean every morning at like 5, 6 in the morning. Before I had a kid, and I could do that on my own. That would be my modus operandi. And I have to admit, as a woman on her own, I'm now starting to think, because there are a lot of these North African migrants who come over to this part of the south of France, and just seeing those scenes. Are we saying Ceuta or Ceuta? Anyway, whatever we're saying, just seeing those invasions and what's happening around there has really made me think about, and I'm not shrinking violet, blah, blah, really made me think about safety and whether having people like that, homeless immigrants sleeping on the beach, whether it's even safe to go in the water alone with no one else around. And, I don't want this to scare one or to affect one's life. It shouldn't be like this.
No, it really shouldn't, but it's not getting any better. I mean, we've got some amazing, we're not going to play them all right now, but we'll play them through the course of the show. We've got a whole load of stuff that's come in this week where we've got migrants being delivered into various different towns in minibuses. They're getting out. There's one we've got here of Braintree in Essex where they're being shipped into town and then they're all waiting outside a doctor's office to be given their prescriptions. We've got another picture. We might do the Soweto one actually of the latest from there, because of course all the lefties said, oh no, they've all gone back now. That's not a problem. There was another invasion over the weekend. Thousands more of them coming over the border. Shall we have a look? Have a look at this one.
He's already got the England top on. England? Is that where you're going to England? Yeah. Apocalyptic scenes here on a beach in Ceuta when the media are telling you that these have all gone back to Morocco, but sub-Saharan Africans and Moroccans, tens of thousands of them, NGOs, Red Cross, everyone is here supporting them, giving them everything they could ever wish for, wishing them on the way. A lot of them want to come to Britain. They keep saying England to me. England.
You're coming to a hotel in Britain near you. I mean, it's just extraordinary that people think that's okay. But there's no emergency alarm for that, Emma.
Exactly. There's no, that's not an emergency. That's just be kind, Mike.
Yes.
That's just people storming. And these are people's communities. We come up against this brick wall with this issue, but with so many issues. But when we talk about how this stuff is affecting our lives in our countries, or in Morocco, or in Spain, or in France, or in anywhere, we get told that we're racist and xenophobic and unkind. There should be a way of this happening in a controlled way, and it's absolutely not. And I guess using words like invasion is inflammatory. I don't know how else to put it. But
because it is an invasion.
Anyone can see what those immigrants have done to that area. There will be tourism there. It'll ruin tourism. It'll ruin the local economy.
Yeah.
I've told you I take my kiddo in London to splash pads and playgrounds and outdoor parks. You can't do that anymore. You can't have little girls running around in swimsuits because you've got foreign men filming, and you don't know what is going on. When you say, what are you doing? Why are you standing by playgrounds or splash pads? Why are you filming children? What?
I know. It's shocking. I just want to thank Active
Really
Patriot,
shocking.
by the way, on Twitter for that footage from Ceuta, because he's down there keeping.
Now
an eye
you're
on
saying
things.
it like Soweto.
Well, because I was told by somebody at funny enough, last week a guy came up who said he used to live there, who was at the Nigel Farage live show that we did, and he said it's Ceuta.
So you're saying Ceuta now?
Ceuta.
Okay.
So it's with an
It
F.
does feel
rather
it was
than-
Ceuta, but are you also saying Turkey or are you saying Turkey?
I'm saying Turkey, yeah, because I remember famously when Turkey changed its name to Turkey, I said Turkey's changed its name to Turkey because it's the same. It doesn't really sound any different. It's ridiculous. Now, Pooch has given us a good idea because I don't know whether you saw the Rod Stewart story about his green grass of home. I don't think he sung that actually. That would be a good one. But if he didn't sing it, he should have done. Apparently, somebody's put a drone up and shown that Rod Stewart's house is all completely surrounded by beautiful green grass, right? So Pooch has gone, why don't we get some Rod Stewart song titles to describe the news this morning? So I've got Sailing, obviously, for the migrants. I don't want to talk about it, which is Louise Haig, doesn't want to say anything about the emergency alarm, and Young Turks, which is another one. So if you think of any...
Huh? Every picture tells a story.
Every picture tells a story, yeah, that's good. What, have you got one?
Well, no, I just wanted to say Rod Stewart is he's so lame, but his music's really, really
Yeah, he's
good.
great. Everybody loves Rod Stewart.
No, but come on. The way, the hair, the mullet, the leather trousers, the whole vibe is off, but his music is brilliant. But can I just say, on the subject of, these mysterious superstars with their where do they get that water from thing, there were pictures in the Daily Mail or something like that over the weekend of Paul McCartney, one of his estates, surrounded. It looked like a sort of literally a barren desert. And there was this big headline, Paul McCartney obeys the hosepipe ban. And I thought, well, big wow, he may be a billionaire, but he's obeyed the ban. It was one of his UK residences, one of his UK estates. And Pooch probably has the story. And it's very, very, very dry. It looks like the Sahara, the Sahara Desert. So he hasn't been watering his rolling fields.
Last thing I want is the government telling me what to do about anything.
Exactly.
And it's got nothing to do with them, whether you use water, whether you don't use water. They can bugger off as far as I'm concerned. We pay them more money in tax. Yeah, we pay them more money in tax than ever, and they're getting everything wrong. And then we find out over the past sort of couple of days that, all of this nonsense about releasing prisoners back into society and open, early release scheme. It turns out there's a new prison which has got hundreds and hundreds of spaces in it because they haven't got, for health and safety reasons, enough warders there. So they could put all of these people they want to let out into these spaces, but because of their complete and utter incompetence, they can't do it.
They can't do it. And I will tell you something else. There are other prisons where they're not all set up with their Wi-Fi and their comfy, cozy sofas and all of that. So they're not using them. Also, Mike, I don't think this early release is total farce. It'll only take one rapist, paedophile or killer to reoffend, and we know the high rate of reoffending amongst prisoners who are let out, let alone prisoners who are let out early and haven't even gone through the farce of rehabilitation. It'll only take one, and the government will have everyone over it. There are women out there who are terrified that their abusers, that their domestic abusers are going to be out on the streets early, and they haven't prepared. They come back to their hometown. They are terrified of this. Not a single person. If a justice minister wouldn't have someone in their own living room or in their own garden or playing with their own child, they should not be releasing a single ex-con or convict early. It's not safe.
No.
They should put them anywhere. Put them on the baby stock home, but do not put them out on the streets of the UK.
Well, look at this, right? As of last month, in this place called HMP Millsike near York, okay, they started taking inmates in 2025. They've got 344 unoccupied cells, which could accommodate the majority of the 470 people currently in prison for manslaughter who are going to get early release. So you could put them straight into another prison, but they're saying, but we can't do it over health and safety grounds. We haven't got enough warders.
Mike, here's another idea. Double up. Put them in two. You could halve the occupancy if they didn't all have single rooms with their cushy TV all day and whatever.
Exactly
use
right.
the gyms. Use the prison yards, whatever. Put up camp beds. They're in prison, for goodness sake. They're meant to be being punished. if they don't have enough space, I don't buy this thing about there isn't enough space. It's all about human rights. Oh, you can't put me in a cell with a manslaughter guy. Well, you're not coming out on the streets. This is such a nonsense, and it's such a stupid excuse that they're using. And if they really think that early release is the answer, they're crazy.
Yeah, meanwhile, just another signal that there's something wrong with our prison system. You might have seen the front page of The Sun this morning. Henry Novak's killer will be allowed prison-to-prison video chats with his jailbird mum. Henry's grieving mum, however, will never speak to her son again. And it's a good front page, this, because Kiran Kaur, the mother of the ghastly Vikram Digwar, is also in jail because she hid the murder victim's, the knife that killed him, basically. And so now they get special treatment and they can speak to each other on video calls while they're both in jail. I think it's disgusting.
And as you say, Henry's mother will never, ever speak to her son again. Not by video call, not by, it's absolutely appalling. That family, the entire family, from the son, Digwa, to the mother, who, and the parents sort of being complicit in the cover-up and all of that, absolutely appalling. And we never really got answers, did we, Mike, about why on earth are Sikhs still able to carry ceremonial swords and all of that? We never really got answers because, we can't talk about that. It's far too sensitive.
No, I know. It's absolutely shocking. Really, really shocking. And again, gives you a great sort of insight into what exactly is wrong inside of our prison system, because it's just not working. It's not fit for purpose. And meanwhile, another story on the front page of the Mail this time calls to change the law because they've discovered that paedophiles, and one particular paedophile has continually used the law to change his identity, right? One convicted sex offender adopted as many as 20 aliases to hide his convictions. Jason Brown, dubbed a danger to children and women after repeatedly changing his name to shield his criminal past. He formed relationships with unsuspecting partners. So you could, meet somebody, have no idea who they are. They've changed their name. You might even decide to check them out, on Google or something like that. But because they've changed their name, you won't be able to find out anything that's happened in their life before. Surely this has got to change. And
once again, why is it on that they get all these kind of opportunities? It's the wrong way round. The balance is the wrong way round. Why is the criminal given the human right? I guess it's a human rights thing. It's a human right. Oh, I can change my name. No, you're the criminal. You get into prison, you bear your name, the name that you were convicted under. It always seems to be that we have to bend the knee and kowtow to the wrong uns, and the foreign criminals. It's so wrong, Mike.
It really is absolutely ridiculous. A couple of other stories just to finish
also,
up with.
I want to talk about the one on the front of the Times that you just sent me through the Times with the.
Yes.
I don't know if it's the Times or the Telegraph, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all right.
I'm in shouty mummy mode. The story about the fact that women and I think it's girls and boys.
Yeah, girls and boys might be different. Apparently,
they might actually be different. Another thing that we are not allowed to say. So I think is it the Times or the Telegraph?
It is the Times, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's an academic, I think it's Smithers or someone like that, a professor of education, saying something we're not allowed to say, but guess what, it's true. There are differences between girls and boys in terms of how they do in exams and in terms of their exam performance. We've got GCSE results coming out this Thursday. It's another one of those big weeks for people, waiting for their exam results. And he says, yes, they do perform differently. And guess what? Another thing, boys do tend to be stronger in subjects like maths and science. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. And I've said all along, little boys are noisier and they are more active and they are, in general, they do tend to be more physical. Whereas little girls do tend to play more quietly, more collaboratively, more, and of course you have tomboys. I was a tomboy. But of course you have times when little boys want to run around and dress up in princess outfits. But generally, gender is a genuine thing. And what is wrong with us admitting that and saying that?
Absolutely right. Loving Emma this morning, on fire. Enjoy the sun, says John. Thank you very much for that. What about this one? This is one from the weekend that you might have seen on a couple of other days. And this is in the Telegraph today. And this is Siobhan McDonough, the MP for Mitcham and Morden, the Labour Party MP, who apparently had help from Lord Ali to buy a house for her terminally ill sister. She was given a loan of £1.2 million. I mean, this is how corrupt these people are. But of course, nobody's investigating it. The Times is not doing it. You know, Dan Hodges hasn't mentioned it. You know, they don't seem to be very bothered by it in the sort of the echelons of the Westminster bubble. Heaven forbid it was a Reform MP.
Heaven forbid. They will not stop hounding Nigel Farage over the donation, the undeclared sum. And there we have Siobhan McDonough, who has taken, or seems to have been privy to a vast sum from guess who? Lord Ali, all over again. It's absolutely outrageous. And as you say, if this was any other party, if it was the Tories, and if it was Reform, this would be all over the front pages.
I know.
Absolutely. Anyway, I want to know why. I want to know what is going on. Siobhan McDonough is actually quite a high profile. I think she was a former minister. I can't remember. But she was friends with the lady who died of a brain tumour.
That's right, yeah. Yeah,
Not
Mo Molam.
Molam,
And she was also very big mates with Angela Rayner, because if you remember, when Angela Rayner went on that nice free trip to New York to stay in Lord Ali's penthouse apartment in Manhattan, they went together. So, you know, why is nobody asking the question about influence and, you know, what kind of, you know, what's being offered in return for these monies being handed over? It's ridiculous.
And this is the point. Why are they all mates with this guy? What influence has he had? Why is he making all this money available to them? It's so obviously undue influence and undue political influence.
Now, a couple of quick questions for you here from the YouTube chat. This one's a bit rude. Jammy Horse from this time in the morning. How did visitors smuggling phones into prisons up their bums fare when the government alert system went off? A whole new meaning for a burner. That's nice. And one from Suzanne, who says, I bought your book this weekend, Mike, and also got Emma's book, Positivity Primal, out from the library. Happy reading. There you go.
My goodness.
Now, I've got to ask you, because I happened to see a little tweet at the weekend, that you've got another book in the offing with Mr. Mike Fairclough, who's published mine.
I've been talking to your amazing contact, Mike Fairclough, at the Free Speech Press, who is that is a man on fire, absolutely a man on fire. Yeah. He's so overflowing with ideas. I was actually talking to him about something I'm very passionate about, which is children, tech-free, smart-free childhood, all of that. Children growing up in the wild, children learning how to build fires and fall off things. And I'm so anti this woke thing where we wrap them up in cotton wool, tell the girls that they're boys and the boys that they're girls. It's all okay. They never need to, climate emergency, climate panic, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I was talking to Mike about that. But yes, that lady who said that she's got Positively Primal out of the library, thank you. That is so exciting, and I hope you enjoy reading it. It's one of my books which I really, really love. And it's all about disconnecting and getting back to nature.
All right, brilliant. Well, listen, you carry on disconnecting and getting back to nature in the beautiful sunshine of southern France.
Mike?
Yes.
Mike, can I just introduce you to a special guest?
Yeah, go on, let's have him.
Ludo!
Let's see him. Come on, Ludo.
Right, he's been waiting for half an hour to say hi.
Oh, hello. Hey, Ludo, how are you doing? How was the sea? How was the sea this morning? Was it nice?
Yeah, actually, I did think the guys were so loud.
Tell me what you think about Andy Burnham.
Andy Burnham is a bum Burnham. It's a bum Burnham.
Bum Burnham, very good. Very well done.
Yeah,
excellent.
Why is he so horrible?
Because he went on holiday. He films silly politics videos. Ball snacks, really?
Bar snaps, really?
I know, brilliant.
Yeah, he's ridiculous.
So, if all this stuff about connecting with the youth is absolute nonsense, because 6-year-olds can see through Andy Burnham.
Yeah. Well done, Ludo. You having a lovely time?
Well, Andy Burnham is also bum.
He's not getting off the subject, is he? He's very good at this, actually. You should introduce him to the Labour Party and say, this is how you can just completely ignore questions from the person on the other end of the phone. Very good. Well done, Ludo. You've got a spot in the Parliament very, very soon. See you soon.
Yeah. Okay.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Have a lovely time. Bum Burnham. Brilliant. Fantastic. Yes, well, there's a great story, by the way, about dwarves today as well, which I'm going to get into with Mark Littlewood. But first, maybe some super chat, shall we? Let's have a look.
Great story about dwarves.
Michelle Gunning has sent us a super chat for £2. Thank you very much, Michelle. One from Kev, who says, Emma Woolf is my secret crush. Well, not anymore. Talking of secrets, there's a big piece on the front of the Telegraph about a secret Russian drone centre, which is also not a secret because it's now on the front of a newspaper. Drev says this: I'm very sceptical that a Western non-tropical country can't sustain enough water for everyone to use as much as they want during a few warm summer months. Well, it seems mad, doesn't it? You know, just because we've had a few weeks of hot weather. Mr. H says, my girlfriend was in tears last night about the migrants. I don't know what to say to calm her down. I don't know what to suggest either. It's pretty frightening what's going on. Colin says this: best show ever, Mike. Guests are a revelation. The book's fantastic. No more to say. Thank you, Colin. Keep it up. Keep up the good work. One from Ruth from... Doesn't say where you're from, Ruth, but thank you very much indeed for that. We had some amazing ones last week, didn't we? Sunshine Hawk says, life is good. Another week of Mike, Pooch, Charlotte and great guests. Elena's back as well today too. MLB, thank you very much for your super chat. Coming in there at 100 miles an hour. What else you got? Coming up later, for the first time, we got Based and Bougie on. Who's going to come on and talk about Jason Arday, because there's all sorts of rubbish being talked about Jason Arday at the moment. And of course, as you might expect, the Cambridge College boss is calling for a public investigation into the hounding of this guy by the press, which is nonsensical because he hounded himself. You know, you might as well make an argument that it's all James O'Brien's fault because he said he felt like a mug because he'd been so nice to Jason, and it turned out he'd made it all up again anyway. So, you know, you don't go around blaming people. It's very sad that he killed himself, and nobody's going to be happy about that. But let's not try and make out that it's anybody else's fault, okay? And if you live by the sword, I'm afraid you know what the other bit is, don't you? Coming up, Edward Hughes is on the missing list. I'm not quite sure where he is, but I tell you what, there's a clue here, because Fiona Mloud got in touch on his behalf and said she could do the news. But apparently she's in Russia.
Hello, Fiona Mloud here with your Monday bulletin from Moscow. Overnight, Russia reported one of the largest Ukrainian drone assaults of the year, with hundreds of drones targeting the Moscow region. Meanwhile, back in the UK, Reform UK has set out plans for a major overhaul of the benefits system, aiming to cut £50 billion a year. This includes banning most welfare payments for foreign nationals, even those with EU settled status, and replacing personal independence payments with a tighter system focused on the most severe cases. Rain is finally on the way after the UK's fifth heat wave of the summer, which peaked at 38 degrees Celsius and triggered widespread wildfires. The Met Office says heavy rain will soak around 60 towns and cities on Tuesday, bringing cooler, fresher conditions. Elsewhere, residents are starting to return home after devastating wildfires in places like Stourbridge. British athletes have enjoyed a strong finish at the European Championships, and the Met Police has apologised after a data error exposed email addresses of alleged Mohammed Al Fayed victims. Uvidimся позже, alligator.
I don't know if there's some kind of George Galloway connection going on with Fiona. Maybe she's been doing some work with him. Yeah. We'll see. Maybe Elena can find out from her sources in Russia as to what's actually going on. You might have noticed, by the way, you would have noticed it possibly on Friday, but over there is another lovely sign that was made for me, and I had it at home actually for a while, and I can't for the life of me remember who sent it in, but I think
it to Clacton, didn't we?
We took it to Clacton. We put it on the stage in Clacton, which we mentioned, of course, again this morning. I think it might be. A name's on the tip of my tongue.
Get them to call it to write in.
But I think she's no good. So I think she's regularly on. It might be Fiona. I can't remember. Somebody who's regularly on the chat anyway. But it is Fiona is my secret crush, says Sean. Steady. I think she may be spoken for, isn't she? Right. Fiona's a spy, says Kitty.
Now, Elena's a spy.
Elena, well, of course Elena's a spy. That's why she works here.
I can't confirm or deny.
Now, how about this for a story, right? I'm going to talk to Mark Littlewood in a minute. But also, Christo's here. We're going to go down to Spain to find out what the latest is from Ceuta, from Mark Lupart, Kinson. Colin Sutton is here. Jeff buys cars as well. And also, Jasmine Bertles, a story knocking around from last week about Vodafone. Do you remember? Basically, I cancelled my direct debits with Vodafone last week, and I want to find out what to do next, because I got, believe it or not, got an email from them saying they'd noticed I'd cancelled my direct debit, even though the direct debit isn't due till the 22nd. So they've already monitored it. Yeah. But a lot of people have been sending me notes over the weekend saying that you can take up with other companies, you can shift your account. So it's not clear yet how it's going to happen, because what I don't want is for them to hound me and try and ruin my credit rating, which is what they might try to do. So we'll find out. But how about this, right? It's off to woke we go. It's a story on page 25 of The Sun. And basically, it's about one of these stupid councils, right? It's staff at Basildon Council in Essex. Were told doctors are not experts about changes in women's bodies during the menopause, and so they decided to do a presentation called the Let's Talk Menopause presentation, where women are embarrassed to speak to GPs. It was among the diversity and inclusion courses at councils, costing taxpayers hundreds of thousands of pounds. Tory shadow local government secretary Sir James Cleverly told the Sunday Telegraph, hard-working taxpayers are having to pay for absurd nonsense like this. It is wrong, not to mention dangerous, to argue that doctors are not experts. But do you know what they did? They renamed the dwarfs, right? So instead of the 7 dwarfs who are normally, sleepy, happy, grumpy, dopey, right?
Yeah.
Instead of that, how about this, right? Itchy,
Yeah.
bitchy, bloated, psycho, forgetful, sweaty.
Really?
That's what they call them, because these are apparently ways to recommend to people who don't understand the menopause, this is what it's like. So basically, if you're married to somebody who's going through the menopause, get ready for itchy, bitchy, bloated, psycho, forgetful, sweaty. I mean,
They're not wrong, though.
yeah, maybe. You see, Pooch once again nails it. He says, maybe they've got a point. I don't want to go there particularly. I just thought I'd raise that as a slightly lighter story that we have for you this morning. Because also, the other good news on the front page is about, you might not care, but it's about the European Championships. Amy Hunt won an unprecedented 4th gold medal as she anchored the mixed 4x100 metre relay team to victory in the European Championships. So that's something nice to talk about. 4th medal, and she's also a woman, right? Which is always nice to champion a woman running in a women's race for women, as opposed to some bloke
Leah Thomas.
running like Leah Thomas,
John Thomas,
the singer, the swimmer rather, who was always entering women's changing rooms and standing around and waving it about, pretending that he was a woman. Well, that's not what you have if you're a woman, I'm afraid. John, stroke Leah, stroke whatever. So anyway, some more super chats already. Come on then, let's go. One from Jane. Oh yes, it's Jane, there you go. I sent in a plaque, Mike. Jane, I'm so sorry. I mean, your name was on the tip of my tongue, and it's a lovely plaque. Thank you very much indeed. So now it has pride of place on the wall behind me. Gwen says, you're my secret crush, Mike. Oh, thank you. That's very kind. But I'm far too busy for that sort of activity. What else we got? Anything else exciting going on? No? All right, well, shall we talk about we'll talk about the story on the front page of the Telegraph, which is all about the Russians, right? Because they're saying, basically, this secret deal, which we didn't know about until they told us. Russia has installed secret bases capable of firing high-powered drones deep into NATO territory. Telegraph investigation can reveal 10 Kremlin bases with newly built launch pads for Moscow's most advanced long-range suicide drones. Some of the bases are already being used to pummel Ukraine with their proximity to the border, helping with mass aerial attacks launched past Kiev's diminishing air defences. But they also offer a long-term threat to NATO. I never know what to make of these kind of stories, really, to be honest, because one, it's not a secret base, is it? Because it's in the Telegraph. Two, they're threatening NATO. Well, they would, wouldn't they? Isn't that what they're for? I don't know. We shall see. Shall we play a couple of little clips? We've already had Pakistan Independence Day fireworks. Let's have a look at what the migrants are up to in Braintree in Essex. Check this out.
Look here, look. This is Braintree. Crates of water. Prescription. You got your prescription? You got your medicine? There you go, he got his medicine. I don't know what sort of noise that is. Is that the calling sign for when the bus is coming? We've got another batch over here. All got new phones though. Hello. How are you all?
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? So they're all getting bussed around, these guys, right? They've all got new phones. They get bussed in and out of town. They get picked up and taken back to wherever it is they're staying. And it's all being paid for thanks to the great British government by you and I. It's insane, isn't it? Absolutely and utterly ridiculous. I haven't seen much action from the channel over the past few days, but I can bet you any money you like that there's still loads and loads of migrants coming in. This morning, actually, Robert Jenrick is giving a press conference at which they're going to unveil Reform's new plan to cut back on the benefits budget, right? They're going to basically say that we can save you £50 billion off the current benefits budget. And of course, a lot of people are going, oh, well, they can't do that. How are they going to manage that? We'll ban all foreign nationals from any benefits, say Reform. The party's vowing to cut the welfare bill by £50 billion with disability cash axed for millions. Front page of the Times has gone a different way, in which they've basically said that disability claimants have said that they would be more than happy to swap £1,000 a year in cash in exchange for services such as therapy and healthy meals. I mean, sorry, you know, we seem to have lost the plot in this country. We seem to say now that if you can't do anything for yourself, not because you are physically incapable of it, but because you're kind of mentally unwell or you can't for some reason walk down to the shop and buy yourself a bag of potatoes, that we now have to make healthy meals for you, or we have to give you physical aids, we have to give you employment support, we have to give you abilities to complete everyday tasks. I mean, it's quite an extraordinary situation, really. And we'll probably have to do more on it tomorrow. But a man who's probably going to do more on it today is Mark Littlewood, because Littlewood and Cox today at 10 o'clock after this show will be picking up the baton of power and taking it on until midday when Ellie Hodges is back. She's going to be doing 4 shows this week, I think. Yep. I'm right in saying Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, because she's going to become a regular on the home of common sense, the true home of common sense. Let's have a word with Mr. Mark Littlewood now, see what he's up to. Mark, very good morning to you.
Mike, hi. Sorry to join you a bit late. We've got so many shows now, I can't keep track of which link I'm supposed to hit to get on which show. Anyway, eventually, yes, by process of elimination, I'm with you, my friend.
Well played, well played. I thought I hadn't really discussed this story until I get to you, because with your economist hat on, there's been an awful lot written over the course of the last 24, 48 hours about the reforms with a small r to the welfare situation. I saw Fraser Nelson making a point yesterday that it was going to be very interesting to see what effect Reform's ideas would have on the constituencies that they've won, because effectively quite a lot of the people in the constituencies where they've won are on some kind of disability allowance or on some kind of PIP allowance. But the truth is, most of the country's on it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, Mike. It's really tricky, this. And the logic of Fraser Nelson's case, he doesn't say this, but I'm drawing an inference from it, is that political parties should never cut welfare if it hits any of their voters. Well, that's a route to the welfare bill heading towards infinity. And the other thing I would sort of say, now this is a bit of guesswork. You were down in Clacton for longer than I was, Mike, I think, overall. But my impression is, although in Reform-held constituencies, or the sort of constituencies that Reform might win, there are indeed quite a lot of people on these personal independence payments, I doubt they are the Reform voters. My suspicion is that the bigger your welfare payments coming through into your bank account, the more likely you are to vote Labour. So even if there's a good chunk of people in these seats on a good chunk of welfare, they're not obviously the people who would tilt into Reform. My impression from Clacton is that the Farage voters were typically self-employed people getting up early in the morning, going to work, all of the rest of it. So from what I've read of the Reform proposals, I haven't gone through them with a fine-tooth comb. They're doing the right sort of thing. I've been saying for years on your show, Mike, that that we need to make big cuts, tens of billions, and Jenrick thinks he's found £50 billion worth of cuts. That's a pretty good start. That's not fiddling at the edges. That's a bold move. And you can't cut welfare without some people being worse off. That's just a fact. We've got to cut it. So you've got to be bold, clear, transparent about it, basically.
And there's no question, is there, that, I mean, Daniel Hannan's written a piece in the Mail today saying there's been a huge mood shift in Westminster on slashing welfare, because it has become literally the millstone around the country's neck. You know, the fact that we've got a bigger welfare bill than we've got defence budget, you know, those kinds of facts, when you say to them to people go, what? What are you talking about? And also there's a kind of split between those, say, on the backbenches of the Labour Party, who think that we should just continually hand out money to people if they say they need it. And others who say, well, you can't just, you know, they're now saying in the Times, oh, I'd rather have a healthy meal given to me than free money. Well, I'm sorry, that's not the choice, you know. How about you don't get anything for free and you go out and get a job?
Yeah, very good point, Mike. And you're right to highlight the bill. So the total welfare bill, the entire cost that we bear every year of just moving money from one cohort to another. This doesn't include, say, education or the NHS spending. Just giving people money is now north of £330 billion a year, which is more than the government brings in income tax. It is by far and away the biggest ticket item on government spending. So one thing is we can't afford it, but the last point you made there, Mike, is a double whammy. A, we can't afford it. B, it deters people from going into work. Because if you're looking at your options and you're thinking, well, I could sort of sign on here and get all of these benefits potentially, or I could, get up early in the morning, go into work, probably do a job I don't much like, and I wouldn't really make much more money. I might even make less money. Yeah. So it doesn't just cost us a fortune, it kills the jobs market, because it means that people who would otherwise be working and contributing to the economy are just sucking money out of it. So it's a double hit. Yeah. Now we've let it get this far out of control. And Dan Hannan is right. I think there is a mood shift, probably not on the Labour backbenches, but pretty much everywhere else. And this is becoming a big issue for Middle Britain.
And I think largely as well, it's going to follow the path of the immigration debate, whereby you actually find that a lot of people who have come to this country from elsewhere, who have come legally, who have jumped through all sorts of hoops and have finally got themselves, a leave to remain, they're as unhappy about illegal migrants as everybody else is. And I think we should have the same attitude, really, because of course there are people who need assistance, there are people who are on welfare because they have to be, but they should also be the ones that are campaigning to make sure that other people who shouldn't be on it are not. You know what I mean? I've got loads and loads of stuff coming through here from people saying, I know several people who get PIP, this is from Ray, they are well off but just overweight. I call it their fat club money, and it's not even means tested. And there is a lot of that going on. There's people with these disability cars, and I know all the arguments about, well, they've given up partially some of their cash in order to get a car instead. Well, why? Sorry, I've got a car, but I pay for it. I buy food. I pay for it. I've just got another tax bill. I have to pay that. You begin to think after a while, what's the bleeding point?
Yeah, exactly right. And there's a number of reasons why this has spiraled out of control. Partly it was allowing mental health conditions to be treated the same as physical health conditions. Now, the problem with that is physical health conditions much more easy to diagnose, right? I mean, if you are in a wheelchair because you've lost a leg or something, it's a lot more easy to diagnose than if you go to your doctor and say, you know what, I'm suffering from depression or I'm feeling a bit anxious. It's almost self-diagnosed. The other thing is, it's for fairly mild ailments, this. I mean, exactly how fat do you need to be before we give you a motor scooter? Right. We've got cases of people qualifying for these sort of supports because they've got acne, for God's sake. Well, I mean, that's not a reason to give you a car. So it's been drawn so wide. And I always keep arguing, Mike, that we need to get back to what Beveridge said. Beveridge was the economist who sort of drew up the plans for establishing the welfare state. So he was on the sort of lefty side of the political spectrum. But even he, in the founding document, said that welfare should be only given temporarily and at subsistence levels. The idea was it'd be a bridge to get you through a particular problem or to help you for a few months when you are out of work, not that it would be a lifestyle choice that you could be on for year after year after year. So I wonder whether our argument needs to be, let's return to the founding principles of the welfare state, subsistence support, ideally for a temporary amount. Well, we've ballooned way out of that at the moment. And just what you were saying about you paying for your car, Mike, I think more and more people are reaching the conclusion kind of, what's the point? I work hard, I get taxed to death, and people who aren't working at all get a good slice of my money. All of the incentives in the economy are wrong at the moment.
Yeah. And in terms of knowing as economics and government policy as you do, how would you go about it exactly? Because obviously, there's going to be resistance. You're going to go to any department of government and they're going to say, oh, no, we can't do that because of this, and this. I mean, if you were advising reform now, Robert Jenrick may well be doing a press conference during your show. I don't know. I'm not sure when it is, but I think it is this morning.
It's 11 this morning. Yeah.
Exactly what would you advise him to do first?
Yeah, well, the first, it's a really good question, Mike, because so many efforts at cutting government expenditure fail, not just in Britain, in all Western democracies. And typically, the efforts that fail are efforts where you try and trim or find efficiencies everywhere, that you tell every department, oh, you've got to find 2% of savings, try and make sure you procure your stationery and paper clips a bit more cheaply, switch the lights off when you're not in the office. Well, that would be an easy one because they're hardly ever in the office, our civil servants. But, find a few savings here, there and everywhere. Or you sort of cap the department's budget. You say, well, inflation's 2%, but we're only going to give you a 0.5% rise in the amount of money you've got. Those tend to fail. You can make some sort of savings there, but all of the evidence from successful consolidations of spending are, rather than trying to cut, say, 5% from 100% of your work, you cut down by just taking 5% of programs you don't like and killing them off entirely. You close down a department, for example. You close down a government program. You don't trim it back by a bit because it will grow again in due course. So what Generic's got to do is to find whole chunks of government activity that are simply going to end. This has always worked a lot better in getting spending under control rather than trying to cream, 1, 2, 5% off the top of everything. So he's thinking in those terms, in terms of personal independence payments, but you've got to do that elsewhere as well. You've actually got to look at government programs, not that you're going to trim, but that you're going to close. So you're better to find a small number of things you're going to kill off rather than believe you can make very, very minor savings in each and every area.
Yeah. Interesting, very interesting indeed. Finally, Andy Burnham is minded. I don't know whether that's a new phrase in politics. It sounds slightly positive, but not very. Minded to approve the substantial Jackdaw gas field in the North Sea after coming under pressure to boost UK energy supplies, piece in the Telegraph today. I think he's going to do it. And how much of a difference will it make? I presume my petrol will still cost exactly the same as it does now, if not more.
Yeah, that's right. I think he's probably going to do it as well. I mean, this is a man who does seem to, when he uses the term minded, he does seem to take an awful long time to make his mind up, doesn't he?
He does.
Flip-flopped on this sort of early Prisoner release. We've had a running commentary of the angst going through his mind. He's been leaning into this a little bit. And, one of the theories is that he moved Ed Miliband out of energy in order to smooth the pathway for this. Look, I very much hope he does it. We should give licenses basically to anyone who wants to drill in the North Sea. A lot of the greenies say, oh, well, there isn't much oil left. But the private sector companies say, please give us licenses to drill. So they think it's worth going there. It won't make an immediate change to the price at the petrol pump, Mike. It really won't. But what it will do is to ensure that the UK can be more self-sufficient in energy over the due course of time. And it will be a major shot in the arm to that part of the country, particularly the area around Aberdeen. We'll get real economic growth. So no overnight miracle if this license goes ahead, but it would be a good, it would be good for the longer term. And I'd quite like our politicians, whether Andy Burnham or anybody else, to start thinking in longer term economic horizons rather than just what's going to grab me a headline tomorrow. So although I don't typically praise our Prime Minister, he'll get 2 cheers from me if North Sea drilling is allowed to go ahead and more licenses issued. Baby step in the right direction, but a step in the right direction for sure if he does it.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to ask you the question I should have asked our earlier guests. This is about water over the course of the weekend. The poll today is, what did you use water for this weekend? Did you shower with a friend? Did you wash the car? Did you water the garden? Or did you mix it with whiskey? Watering the garden's coming top at the moment, which is slightly worrying. I don't know if Rod Stewart's involved in this, but you saw his the picture of his very green sort of estate in the middle of a brown field site scenario. But anyway, so what have you been doing?
Well, Mike, I can give you my answer to that question, but I'm afraid it's by process of elimination. I don't own a car. I don't have a garden. I drink whiskey neat. So by process of elimination, it has to be that I showered with a friend, right? So that's
I thought you were going to say, and I haven't got any friends either. So I mean,
It was a very difficult poll for me to complete today's one, Mike. But I went and showered with a friend by process of elimination.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Well, we'll see you at 10 o'clock. If not
looking
before.
forward to it. We've got a pack show. We'll be going through that emergency alert stuff. We've got a whole load of funny stories there, especially from Wales, Mike.
Oh, really?
It went down really badly indeed. Yeah.
What a very stupid idea it was. That's Mark, great. So many stories to talk about. Good stuff. Mark Littlewood and Paul Cox coming up at 10 o'clock this morning on the greatest TV station of all time, the home of common sense. It is, of course, UK Live Online. This is the Mike Graham Show. We're with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. We've got Christo Fufas coming up in a moment. But first, let's get some news with Fiona Mloud.
Fiona Mloud here with your Monday bulletin from Moscow. Overnight, Russia reported one of the largest Ukrainian drone assaults of the year, with hundreds of drones targeting the Moscow region. Meanwhile, back in the UK, Reform UK has set out plans for a major overhaul of the benefits system, aiming to cut £50 billion a year. This includes banning most welfare payments for foreign nationals, even those with EU settled status, and replacing personal independence payments with a tighter system focused on the most severe cases. Rain is finally on the way after the UK's fifth heat wave of the summer, which peaked at 38 degrees Celsius and triggered widespread wildfires. The Met Office says heavy rain will soak around 60 towns and cities on Tuesday, bringing cooler, fresher conditions. Elsewhere, residents are starting to return home after devastating wildfires in places like Stourbridge. British athletes have enjoyed a strong finish at the European Championships, and the Met Police has apologised after a data error exposed email addresses of alleged Mohammed Al Fayed victims. Uvidimся позже, alligator.
Bit of Russian at the end there for you, for those of you. I might have to get a translation to see what she's actually saying. It could be a secret message to some cell or other here in the UK. But nothing secret about Christo Fufas, as far as we know. Let's have a word and see how he's doing. Christo, very good morning to you.
Morning, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. I can see you as well, and I'm glad to see you're not standing in front of a mirror this time, because obviously that was a very nice message you sent me over the birthday period. You may or may not have been aware that some things were seen which were not supposed to have been seen, as far as I'm aware.
I don't know what you're talking about. No idea. I just sent you a lovely message celebrating the importance of birthdays and family, and
yes,
that's
and
all.
Very much appreciated as well, as it was. Now, I'll start you off with the question I last finished with Mark Littlewood on. What did you do with your water this weekend? Because, of course, our poll is asking the question, what did you do with your water this weekend? And according to, at the moment, most people seem to have been washing their garden with it, or hosing their garden down, rather. Did you shower with a friend? Did you wash the car? Did you water the garden? Or did you mix it with whiskey?
I watered my garden. Of course, all I did was go back and forth with that watering can. There was not a hose pipe in sight. I mean, why would I use a hose pipe? Because there is a hose pipe ban, and I take that very, very seriously. So back and forth I was with my watering can, my poor wrists. I mean, look how limp they are after having to lug that can back and forth, I tell you, because my petunias were very, very dry.
Yeah.
But they're not anymore.
Yeah,
and so that's what I did with my
dry
water.
clematis, as far as I know, but that's another story.
Do you know? Have you ever tried to lubricate a pansy in your back garden, Mike?
No, I haven't.
That is not fun either.
No, I'm sure it's not. I think it's against the law in some countries. But anyway, what about the emergency alert alarm that went off on Friday night? Did you get one, or have you switched yours off already?
Well, what I was doing actually at the time was I was just about to commit arson, and then I got the alert, which reminded me of quite how dangerous fire is. So lucky that they sent that, because literally I had the matches in my hand. I was about to start a wildfire, and I had no idea the dangers of fire. So I'm so glad that they let me know. And so then I also cancelled the barbecue plans I had, because again, who knew that a flame could cause fire? And so I'm really, really looking forward to getting more of these alerts to tell me that the sky is blue, that I shouldn't soil myself on a regular basis, and I should remember now and then that I should try and drink water so that I don't die.
Yes, I know. It's incredibly mad. And also how ironic that Louise Haig is the woman in charge of making the decision to get an alert on your phone. As somebody said, all of those phones in her drawer must have been going mad on Friday night. All those ones that she's reported stolen. You know, it just sounded like Markheim, you know?
Yeah, she's got such a good history with phones. I really trust her judgment.
And also, what about this from the Pakistan Independence Day celebrations. I don't know if you saw this, but I mean, you know how everybody's been told, just take it easy. You know, if you are going to have a barbecue, be very careful. This is what happened on Friday night. I think it was in Leicester. Have a look.
Oops, sorry.
Sorry.
Which clip is this?
Not the Pakistan one. I think it's 5.
Ah, here we go. Sorry.
Pakistan Zindabad!
I mean, I don't know about you, Christo, but that looks quite sort of dangerous under the new rules.
Well, yes, that did look, what's the word, slightly flammable,
Incendiary,
one would say.
I think I would say.
Where's the emergency alert for that?
You know,
why didn't we get one?
Imagine if you had that. If you had that going off in the back of your garden, you'd have had the cops round within about 2 nanoseconds.
It's just, I don't understand. But you know what? This is where we're heading now, because people would claim, oh, well, there wasn't an emergency alert about that, so I can get away with it. And that's where we're heading now. We're literally going to, I'm obsessed with how stupid we're making the nation and how the over information that we give people, because we presume everyone's stupid without realizing what we're doing is making people stupid.
But this is the problem with the sort of the nanny state, isn't it? Once you give them a little bit of kind of leeway, they suddenly want to rule single thing in your life. They want to tell you what to do with your water. They want to tell you when to stand, when to sit, when to get up, when to go out, when not to drive your car, when to sort of, you know, switch on your smart meter, and when to, you know, I'm sick to death of it.
And there is a really serious side to this, because you're absolutely right. These emergency alerts are going to end up being, you know, don't forget to file your tax return or pay your TV license. Without a doubt, that's where we're heading with those. And the problem is that at some point there may well be a life-threatening incident that requires the government to get in touch with us all, and we're all going to have switched off our alerts because they are abusing. I've turned mine off. I didn't even know it switched on, but I've got a new phone, and I think it defaults to being back on when you've got a new phone or when you update your phone. But I've switched mine off. Screw them. I'm sorry. Also, you know, how did we ever cope before when there wasn't the advent of mobile phones? What we used to do was watch the news and inform ourselves. But because we are trying to create a nation of stupid people, we now are making people over-reliant on basic information which you shouldn't actually need in order to survive as a human being. You know, I remember a couple of years ago walking through a train station, and there was a massive, great big sign reminding us that we needed to put a coat on when we went outside because it was cold. I'm sorry, but I don't need that information on a sign. I don't need endless signs telling me the way in which an escalator is going to kill me. Have you ever have you seen an escalator now? There are 18 ways that you could die. Don't throw yourself down with luggage.
There's a tannoy message. There's a tannoy message that goes off now when you come up the escalator at Waterloo Station, which says, you know, please be careful, moving machinery. You're like, I can see it's bloody well moving. That's why I'm on it, so that I can get from down here to up there. I knew it was moving when I got on it.
And what happens is that people then don't have that information for whatever reason, and then they blame the state, which means the state thinks it's got to do more. When in actual fact, if you are stupid and decide to throw yourself down an escalator, well then I'm sorry, why should I listen to a deluge of unnecessary information because of your stupidity?
I know. Absolutely shocking. Now, a big story at the weekend was about your friend and mine, Patrick Christies, talking about how he was more or less hounded out of his own home, which you might want an alert for, I suppose, because of a threat to do him harm from some nasty people smuggling migrant types. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, this was first reported over the weekend, you're quite right, but this has actually been going on for a great deal of time. So their baby is about, I think, nearly 1 year old now. Nearly 1 year old, and it was when Emily was 8 months pregnant that she got this phone call from the police saying, you need to leave your flat immediately. Actually, it was a visit from the police. You need to leave this flat immediately. There is a danger to your life and your husband's life as a result of these people gangs these people smuggling gangs that he
Yeah.
has been investigating. And it is absolutely shocking. What's more shocking as well, though, was some of the reactions I saw to this over the weekend from people thinking that the story's either made up or that it's in some way brought on by themselves, when in actual fact what he is doing and what he has valiantly been doing is journalism.
Yeah.
And I think what is amazing, and they are dear friends of mine, but I would say this anyway, they've not missed an hour of work because of this. They've not missed a show, they've not missed anything. They have just kept calm and carried on under really the most shocking of circumstances. And it's intimidation of the press who are legitimately reporting on a story. Patrick found people smuggling gangs. That's what he did as part of his journalism, and it is those gangs that he exposed, and incidentally gave the information to, from what I understand, to the government, as most agencies, most reporters do when they discover any of these criminal gangs. They pass it on to the authorities, and but the authorities found that there had been, through intelligence, that there had been a threat to his safety. And so it's the worst kind of intimidation of journalism, and it just goes to show these sorts of people. And it also goes to show the sorts of people, is there an argument to say that maybe we should do our bit when it comes to people who are genuinely fleeing war and persecution, women and children? Yes, I think that there's a legitimate argument to be had, conversation to be had about
let
that.
me know when you find
but
one.
Well, that's a very fair point. But all of these people that sort of say, well, everyone should be allowed in and we should be compassionate and all of these sorts of things, well, what you're actually doing with that rhetoric is facilitating criminals who are making hundreds of thousands of pounds, who actually are issuing death threats towards people. So that's actually who you're supporting when you support this idea of everyone being allowed over.
Yeah, these people who say those kinds of things are so out of touch with reality as to be completely and utterly bonkers as far as I'm concerned, because all you've got to do is look at, on a daily basis, we do videos here, we've got one today, of a lot of migrants in Braintree in Essex, who are literally just getting off a minibus, sitting around, smoking, going and get prescriptions, which they get for free, walking around the town, spitting, doing whatever they like, and then getting back on the bus and going back to wherever it is they're being put up for free by us. These are the people coming over. They're not fleeing war or persecution. We've seen the footage from Active Patriot over the weekend from Ceuta, where thousands more migrants from Morocco are coming to Spain. We want more and more of those people to come to Britain. It's outrageous.
It is, and I think you're absolutely right. It does go to show this, just how out of touch some of these people are when it comes to all of this, but also the fact that it's about the sense of fairness. And people who are working hard, paying their taxes and doing the right thing every day, and they see people who are not doing the right thing and those people are being ignored, that's what drives people mad. And even though, and I've said this quite a lot, the number of people who come over on small boats compared to the actual legitimate immigration that we've had to this country, which is also too high, is actually relatively small. But actually, it's not about that. It's about the British culture and that sense of fair play that people feel so angry about. That's what is the main thing about this story.
Yeah, absolutely right. Christo, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time.
Thank you, as always.
Don't drink too much water now. Be careful. Don't have too many showers.
Oh, I won't. I'll make sure that I'm only drinking whiskey, as you say, from now on.
Well done. Top man. Christo, thank you very much indeed. Christo Fufas there, reporting in from his lair somewhere in South London, where he says that he's been watering a lot of flowers. Of course, and why wouldn't you? But of course, you've got to do it with a watering can, otherwise you might get reported to the water police, who apparently are now suggesting that water companies should be able to charge you more money because water should cost more during a drought. Well, the only reason there's a drought is because they can't manage the system properly. If they stopped leaking billions and billions of litres into the bleeding ground every 5 minutes, then it would be fine, would it not? Now, coming up, Based and Bougie's going to be here. Jeff Buys Cars is here. Jasmine Bertles, Jess Kane. Colin Sutton is coming up next as well. And we're going to talk to him about some of the crime-related stories in the papers here this morning. Let's do a couple of super chats first, though, and get those to you. One from Easy Boy. Mike, Ray the welfare state, etc. It's a communist regime approach vis-a-vis North Korea. Kim Jong-Burnham. Yeah, absolutely right. Or Bum Burnham, as Emma Woolf's son Ludo calls him. My dad always said you can't legislate for see you next Tuesday, says Jane. Very true. And you can't just help everybody out. Orwellian Nightmare says, my 2 self-assessment payments in 2026 have paid for a migrant to stay in a hotel for 2 months. Go figure. Well, this is the problem. I mean, I keep getting demands from the taxman every single month now that seem to just keep going up. I don't know where they're getting them from. D-Light send us some money. Thank you very much indeed for that. Super chat, you can do it too. Great show as per usual, Mike. I'm wondering if the government will announce voting by phone app before the general election, making it more inclusive, says Mr. Woodward. I was at a place at the weekend down in Bexhill and they had a big sign up. It was very nice actually. I went out with my son looking to buy a couple of records for his birthday. And the sign inside this particular building said, this is an inclusive space where we expect you to treat everybody with respect. Why do you need a sign to say that? You know, it's not like people walk into a building and suddenly start shouting at each other or pushing each other around or abusing each other, do they? What's the point of that? Honestly, I don't get it. Mark Lupart Kinson is here with us. I switched all my alerts off, says that last one. Sorry, can I say one again? Back in the fake pandemic, says Treb. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I did because I didn't get any alerts at all. I just turned my alarm off, says Lorna. Yeah, if you need to know how to do it, just let me know. Basically, you go into notifications and you go all the way down to the end and it says severe alerts or whatever it is. You just turn them off. Morning, Mike. Rod Stewart's song, I Was Only Joking. Great show as usual. Yeah, that's a good one. That is a very good one. Pooch had a suggestion of You Wear It Well for the Trans Brigade. We haven't actually got a trans story this morning, but we have got some other big crime stories and we'll talk to Colin Sutton about them. But first up, let's get an update on what's going on in Ceuta because Mark Lupart Kinson is here, I think, to talk to us about what's happening in that part of North Africa. Mark, very good morning to you.
Very good morning to you. Mike, indeed, the news out of Ceuta this weekend is basically the second call to invade the enclave, which was supposed to take place on Saturday 15th, apparently was thwarted by the Moroccan police on the Moroccan side of the border. And also, it was diffused by the fact that the Spanish army had been patrolling the border constantly since the first invasion of the 31st of July, which is basically what all the Spanish people expected from our army. After all, the Spanish army has barracks and has a lot of troops stationed in Ceuta precisely because it's a territory that's very vulnerable to this sort of let's say illegal immigrant invasion. After all, this has been happening for the last quarter of a century, right? Well, the fact is that this was thwarted on Saturday, except for the fact that some people on the Moroccan side, basically aliens from the Moroccan perspective, we got to bear in mind that people from some sub-Saharan Africa have their own camps placed on the hills around Ceuta. Those are the ones who tried to breach the border again. But thank goodness, the 70,000 odd Moroccan youths that also got into the city limits on the 31st of July actually were impeded to take that action by the Moroccan police.
Right. I mean, a lot of the footage that we've seen over the weekend as well shows that many of these immigrants who came over in the first wave are still there, though.
Well, that's it. What happened after the 31st of July was that through diplomatic channels, the Spanish government, who should have prevented all this from the start, after all, our intelligence services have already said that they knew that there was this massive call for people to breach the perimeter, the border perimeter of Ceuta after that Supreme Court ruling. Well, the Spanish government was able to send these people back through a negotiation with the Moroccan government. They accepted to take them back in. But of course, out of the approximately 80,000 people who invaded, those who went back were around 70,000. I mean, basically, they were Moroccan youths who apparently were there just for the fun of it. they got these notices through social media that the border was open, they could go into Spain, and some of them decided, oh, it's Friday night, we'll just go have some fun, etc. Well, those made up about 70,000, but around 12,000 remained in the town. Who are those who remained? Well, they are the sub-Saharan, nationals, people from countries like Mali, Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Mauritania, etc. Why did they stay? Because they had nowhere to go if they went back to Morocco. And they took advantage of the fact that there's this sort of legal limbo, of which the NGOs and humanitarian foundations, inform them about. You stay here, and eventually the Spanish government will take you, will transport you to the mainland, which is not just Spanish mainland, it's mainland Europe. And those are the ones who have stayed. And of course, they've now sent the whole town, the whole city, in a state of utter anger, indignation, and frustration. The local population say that they don't want those people there. They're camping on the beaches, they're camping in the parks, they're camping on this beautiful forested hillside that they have around the city, which is spoiling, so to say, their way of life. And those are the 10 to 12,000 who remain. And those are the images that we have seen throughout these weekend.
Yes. And is there a plan to is there a plan to return them, or are they now just going to be there forever?
Well, that's the thing. They can't be returned to wherever they came from under the pretense, and this has been going on for about a quarter of a century now. The same has been that it has been happening in other European countries. They can't be returned allegedly to the countries they came from because those countries don't want them back. I mean, I know in Britain you heard a lot of these sort of stories, right? Countries that will not take back their own nationals, even if they're criminals or have been released from prison, etc. Well, this is the same situation. There's nowhere to take them back. To begin with, they won't tell you what countries they come from, because they're just following the instruction book that the NGOs and the humanitarians are giving to them. When media crews arrive on these beaches, on this hillside to film and to record, all these people will now come out with signs saying asilo, which is asylum, because the NGOs have told them, you got to get the media on your side. We prepare these signs for you. Just keep claiming asylum. Most of them probably don't even know what the word asylum means anyway, because it's obvious they can't claim asylum, right? And there's no way they can be returned. And the only way out they have from Ceuta, after all, Ceuta is like a dead end, because they have the border on one side and the sea on the other, is to be patient, keep waiting, and probably when winter comes, the Spanish government, that I must remind you, is a coalition of socialists and communists, will have the justification to move them onto the mainland, because these people cannot live on the beaches under winter conditions.
No. But also the European Union is starting to put pressure now, are they not, on the Spanish government to say, you've got to do something about this. You cannot allow these people just to wander into Europe. We're not having it. So they seem to be somehow trying to stop wherever these people are moving into Western Europe.
Well, that's the hypocrisy, isn't it, of the European Commission. I mean, Pedro Sanchez has inexplicably been at the helm of the Spanish government for more than 8 years now. And he's been carrying out all these, let's call them political atrocities, as the Spanish people claim, because his policies have never been voted for by the Spanish people. They weren't even in, let's say, the Socialist Party's manifesto, election after election, I must remind our viewers now that Pedro Sanchez never did win the election back in 2023. The party that won the election was the All Conservative Party, right? But however, he made it into government. Okay, well, he's been implementing all these open border policies, all this regularization of illegal immigrants policies, etc., etc., and to much of the let's say the disgust of our European partners. But that's what the European Commission will publicly claim right at the beginning. Oh, what is Pedro Sanchez doing back in Spain? But in the end, nothing happens. The Spanish government never gets sanctioned in the end. There's because let's face it, most of the European governments are left wing also. So before their own people, they have to come out with these public statements, expressing disconformity with the policies of the Spanish government, but in the end, nothing happens.
That's the trouble. But we watch with interest to see what does happen next. Mark, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Mark Lupart, Kinson there, reporting into us from Spain, where there's still an awful lot of disquiet on the mainland about what is likely to happen in Ceuta, or Ceuta, as he calls it. I'm going to just keep mispronouncing it. I know it's going to be one of those things that I never get right. But I was told by somebody who came to the live show last week in Clacton that it's Ceuta, not Ceuta. I don't know. I mean, take your pick, I guess. Coming up, Basin Bougie is here for the first time in the studio. We'll be finding out from her what she thinks about the Jason Arday scenario, because already there's all kinds of calls for investigations to be run into the way the media forced Jason out of his job and somehow hounded him to his death. Not something I agree with. I spoke about that on the walk and talk that I did on Sunday, basically. Also, Colin Sutton is here, and he's going to talk to us about some of the crime-related stories in the papers this morning. Colin, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Good to see you. Colin, of course, newly elected Police and Crime Commissioner in Norfolk. How's that all going, first of all?
Going very well. It's hard work. I've put a lot of hours in, but we've found some money tucked down the back of the sofa, and we've got a few things that we're doing already that I think the public will see a difference with. And of course, we had a bit of a test of the constabulary with some protests and disorder in Thetford last week, which we had to deal with while still supporting them and allowing the protests to be made. And I think we managed to tread that line quite well. So, it's going well. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, good. A couple of stories to talk to you about, I suppose, in the papers this morning. The one on the front page of the Mail's interesting. It's about calls to change the law, which I imagine you might be in tandem with, where ministers under pressure last night to close a legal loophole that allows paedophiles and perverts to change their identity. Because they found a guy whose name is Jason Brown, and I'm not sure whether that's his original name or whether the one that's been changed, but he's adopted as many as 20 different aliases to hide his convictions. And surely that must be wrong, mustn't it? Because what they're saying is basically he's a former firefighter, he's moved around the country, he's 50 years old, preying on women and children, but every time he gets caught, he just adopts a new persona. So that really is a bad loophole, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes a mockery of the register, doesn't it? You've got the sex offenders register, and the idea of that is that we can, and probation service together, can keep tabs on people and know where they are and what they're doing. And of course, if you allow somebody to wriggle out of that by changing their name every other week, then it makes a mockery of it. So absolutely. Right.
Yeah, I mean, how would anybody even know, for example, that was happening? Because if you're, say for example, I've got a daughter who gets a new boyfriend, I want to check him out and see whether he's been up to no good in some way, shape or form. I mean, how easy is that to do, first of all, if you're just Googling someone, or how easy is it for them to hide their identity and just change it?
Yeah, well, I think it's easy in the sense that what you do is to do it formally. You do a deed poll, and you can change your name lawfully, and you have to tell the banks and other people like that you interact with, where you've got sort of official accounts. But of course, if you then don't tell the police, there's no updating to your criminal record centrally, and then there's no way that these protection people that go around and try and keep tabs on people on the register know where you are. So change your name, move your address, and nobody knows, I guess, So it as I say, it makes a mockery of it, really, because there's an easy way of wriggling out of it. And of course, then nobody knows or has the ability to check on what your history is.
Yeah, right.
These ways we can now do it.
Right. I mean, do the police have ways of doing it? Because obviously that would be a concern as well. If you could mask it from the police, for example, say you pick some guy up, would you be able to check what his history is and what his different names might have been and what convictions he might have?
If you've got somebody physically in front of you, then yeah, because you can do it with fingerprints, and people are all fingerprinted when they're convicted, and those fingerprints can be checked up. And of course, they have the kit now to do that at the roadside. They don't have to take somebody to a police station to do that. So that's always the way of that's always been the way of telling if people are giving you a false name, because aside from actually formally changing your name, people do quite often give a false name when they're stopped and spoken to by police, and that's always a good way of doing it is by their fingerprints, and also by officers investigating there and then and asking them things about themselves. But if you've got somebody who's on the sex offenders register who moves away and changes their name officially and just takes up an entirely new title, then although they ought to notify police of that. If they don't, there's no real way of checking it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the trouble, isn't it? It seems to be a massive, and presumably this will be something which, if the ministers are kind of minded, as it seems to be the new word around Andy Burnham's government, minded to do, is it going to be one of those things that they're going to find is actually quite hard to do, because changing the law in this country seems to be less easy than it looks?
Well, that's one of the great mysteries of the last 2 years, isn't it? How a government with 160 odd majority finds it so difficult to do things, and they say, hey, "But it's the law." But well, you make the law. You are Parliament.
You would think. You would think so. I mean, presumably there'll be some human rights, sort of line involved in this, in which they say, "Oh, you must be able to, protect your identity from, people who would do you harm." Well, yeah, but not if you're going to try and, hide your previously criminal activity.
No, absolutely right, and it is yet another sort of issue with the Human Rights Act, and it just causes us so many problems. That's why we need to quickly repeal that act from 1998 that put us in there, and then we can go about disentangling properly.
Yeah.
But I think I was talking last week. Actually, it was interesting. I got a lot of abuse on social media, which is nothing new.
I'm afraid that's what you always have to say, isn't it? Nothing new there.
Absolutely, but I'd said that we would leave the Human Rights Act very quickly if we had a reformed government, and we would. I mean, you can't disentangle yourself. Well, the thing is with this, and I didn't have the time to say it then, so I'll say it now. There is one Act of Parliament, the Human Rights Act 1998, which we were signatory to the ECHR from the start, but we just didn't apply it to British law. And we can apply it from British law very easily by repealing that Act. Now, we'd still be a signatory to the ECHR, we just wouldn't be using it. And if we actually want to go ahead and leave it and disentangle ourselves, that might take longer. But just repealing that one Act would mean that judges didn't have to take into account in everything. Yeah. And it touches all sorts of things. I was talking to a friend of mine from Essex last week about a traveller incursion on some public space. And there is a power for police to use, which actually in the event they did use, but every time they've tried to use that in the past, the Article 8, right to family life, has been used. If we just stop that being used in all our legal systems, we would find actually that the law we have is often quite suitable and quite sufficient to achieve what we want to achieve.
Yeah, because no doubt there's a story in the front of the Sun today about Henry Novak's killer, who's going to be allowed prison video chats with his mother, who's also in prison. And of course, I would imagine that the Human Rights Act has been involved in some way to make that happen, because no doubt the right to family life will be what they say is his automatic right to speak to his mother.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. I don't. Yeah, we know prisoners are allowed phone calls, and we. They're there for three things, aren't they? They're there for punishment, they're there to protect the public, and they're there for rehabilitation.
Yeah.
And I understand that, and I'm not one of these people who thinks that they ought to always be breaking rocks and sewing mailbags all day. But you do kind of think sometimes that the perks that they are allowed just to have an ordinary life apparently are way beyond what one might expect when somebody's done something so heinous and it's ended up getting sentenced, something like that. Yes, we have to treat them with humanity and we have to treat them properly, but do we have to give them all these perks? Do we have to give them little treats all the time? I mean, but the difficulty with it is, and often is that you need to sort of run a regime within a prison, and for that you need a degree of cooperation from the prison inmates, and so things like that, I guess, help make it more manageable. And if you took all those away and take them away, and also they give a sort of a possibility of punishment, I suppose, if people misbehaved, and they can lose their privileges for a week or 2 weeks or something like that. So it's not as straightforward as it seems, but certainly I think the general public looking at this will think that he's getting treatment that he probably doesn't deserve given what he did.
Yes, I think so, and I think that's the thing. It's not a one-size-fits-all justice system, so it shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all justice system. Maybe he should have had to earn it. He's only been in prison very long. Maybe instead of going the other way and taking privileges away, how about you say, well, I'll tell you what, if you behave in a good way, then maybe you can accrue credits, and maybe in 6 months' time you'll be able to have a chat with your mum, rather than just saying, well, he's automatically allowed to do it. Do you know what I mean? That would be my sense. Also, another story today about the prison system. There's a new prison apparently that's been opened since last year, which has got about 350 spaces in it, because they haven't got enough staff to man it, so they can't put the people that they should be able to put in there, which they could do. Meanwhile, they're going to let 470 people out as a result of not having any space, and you kind of go, can you not just manage it properly?
Yeah, I mean, getting people to work within the prison system has been a problem for some time now, and whether that's conditions, whether that's the pay not being very good, or a combination of all those, we know. But we heard that story last year where we are recruiting have recruited lots of prison officers from abroad, specifically from West Africa.
Yeah,
and that was where somebody came to us with the story that because their English is so poor, they're using flashcards to tell the prisoners what to do. So they're sort of showing them a piece of paper with turn your lights off or go back in your cell or whatever. And that was about the time we had all those sort of scandals with all those mistaken releases, where people were being released. And I don't know what happened. I know there was an inquiry going to be done, I think, by a very prominent ex-police officer. But I didn't see the result or the outcome of that. But it did make you wonder at the time whether the fact that, it's a communication issue, isn't it? If people get released when they're not meant to be released, somewhere the communication's broken down. Yeah. And if you've got people who can't speak English, then it's quite understandable that that communication might break down. And I wonder how much effect that had on it. So that's another kind of outcome from this lack of staff, lack of people going in. But the fact that we've got 350 places vacant when we're releasing dangerous people onto the streets, it's just, you couldn't make it up, really.
It's mad, isn't it? Completely mad. Yeah. Just one final one for you. It's an unusual case, and there's a charge, I think, or somebody's been arrested, so we've got to be a bit careful, but we don't have to give any names. Up in Yorkshire at the weekend, a man was arrested on suspicion of murder after a dog attack. I don't think I remember that happening before. Has there ever been a case before where a man's been charged with murder because of his dog?
I can't remember one of murder off the top of my head, although I'm not saying there hasn't been, but there have certainly been a number of cases of assaults where, if you set your dog on somebody and you've got a dog trained well enough to respond to your command and attack somebody, then there's no doubt that that's an assault. And of course, if you assault somebody and they die, then it's probably a murder. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, because we hear, sadly, don't we, these cases of dogs causing death when they're kind of out of control. But the way this is being reported certainly makes it sound as if there was some degree of instruction and encouragement by somebody on the dog to do it. And a dog can be a weapon just as much as a gun or a knife could be a weapon if they're properly trained. But it is an interesting and unusual case.
It really is. We'll keep an eye on that one. Colin, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed, as ever.
I apologise about my lighting. I don't know what's gone wrong with it today, but I'll sort it out next time.
Well, it gives you a sort of, a kind of a twilighty sort of look. So maybe
it looks like I'm on the sunbed for the weekend.
You could pretend that you're saving energy by not putting all the lights on, and you could make a virtue of it. But there we are. Colin, good to see you. Thanks very much indeed. Somebody's asking what's in my hair. I don't know. Does my hair look any different than it normally does? Not sure. I think it's just the way the light's falling on it. Anyway, listen, I'm delighted to say Based and Bougie is here. Very nice to see you. Welcome for the first time to the Mike Graham Show. Before we start, and before we talk about Jason Arday, there's a couple of clips I think we should look at. We're not going to. I don't think we're bothering you, shall we?
Yeah, shall we do the number 4?
Yeah, let's do. Well, we do. Let's do Annie Aluko first, which is number 3. She apparently wants a public inquiry into the death of Jason Arday. Another big story over the weekend. We'll get into it in a minute. Have a look.
Oh no, sorry.
No?
Yeah, can we do number 4 though?
Okay then, number 4 first. This is about.
Because I am truly heartbroken, but I am so angry. I'm angry at the racism that surrounded Jason. I'm angry at the relentlessness with which he was watched, pursued, written about. Angry at how easily a human life can disappear beneath the weight of other people's words. Because Jason was here before the headlines, he was loved beyond them, he was known beyond them, and his life will remain infinitely larger than the story anyone tried to make of him. Racism did this, and I think we should be able to say that plainly this afternoon. There is another reason for my anger. For so many of us, Cambridge was once imagined as an arrival. We worked towards places like this. We believed in the university, in the academy, in knowledge. Perhaps we even believed that if we could make our way through these gates and take our seat in these rooms and learn their language well enough, become scholars ourselves, then we might finally have the tools to change something. And somewhere inside that, there was a hope that having arrived meant that we might belong. Jason's death and the cruelty and smear that surrounded him reminds us that for many, we do not belong. An institution can give you a room and still withhold a home. It can give you a title and still question your right to speak.
Yeah, you can question your right to speak while actually speaking. That doesn't make any sense at all, does it? These people are insane, aren't they? Why are they blaming racism or the media or anybody else apart from him for what happened?
I can't help but wonder, where was this energy for Rayon White? Where was this energy for Henry Nowak? Where was this energy for all the number of, white people who have been killed and literally murdered?
Yeah.
But yet you have Jason Arday, who literally killed himself, and they're blaming it on the media.
Right.
And they're blaming it specifically on the right-wing media. I'm not being funny, but it was the left-wing media who brought him to our attention.
Yeah.
They were the ones that put him at the forefront of DEI. They were the ones that said, this is the staple boy of how we end racism.
Right.
We didn't know about him. We wouldn't have known he existed had it not been for the
to be honest,
left-wing
until
media.
about 2 weeks ago, I'd never heard of the guy.
I actually didn't hear of him either.
I don't spend a lot of time poring through the pages of The Guardian. I don't listen to James O'Brien's show, although I did notice last week he was saying that he felt like a bit of a mug because he'd been calmed, basically, by Jason Arday. Why is nobody blaming him?
Exactly.
If you want to start blaming people.
Right, and it's quite insane to me that they are now blaming white supremacy, and now they're blaming white, and this is just your typical left-wing tactic, where rather than blaming, internal causation, they rather blame external causation. So people on the right, we blame our own personal decisions, we blame our own personal responsibility, we blame ourselves for our decisions, whereas people on the left, what they do is external causation, where they say everybody, if something bad happens to you, is because of your environment. And they're doing the exact same thing with Jason Arday. Jason Arday literally committed suicide. Well, allegedly. He killed himself, allegedly. That's the main story coming out. And yet people are now blaming this on the press, they're blaming this on the mainstream media, they're blaming this on GB News. No, he literally, allegedly, murdered himself. There's no one else to blame but himself. And it is very, very sad.
Be the case. I mean, there's another guy here called Lord Woolley, which is a good apt name for him, the principal of Homerton College in Cambridge. He says that Jason had been subjected to the most horrendous, toxic, vicious witch hunt before his death. Well, hang on. What about the guy from the Times Educational Supplement who was investigating whether or not many of his claims actually stood up to scrutiny, who was then investigated by the police? What about all the people that Jason Arday threatened with legal action through Carter Ruck's, one of the most vicious law firms in Britain, right? Frightening law firm, actually, where people get very, very intimidated by getting a letter from them because it sounds really, really serious. What about all those people who got intimidated by him because he told a whole web of lies and deceit in order to get to where he was?
Exactly. So he was willing to commit a witch hunt on other people for simply telling the truth and exposing his lies. But when it's done to him, that's when is the problem. And here's my thing. I am so sympathetic of the fact that he's not with us. It truly does break my heart.
Well, of
my
course, it's a tragic story,
Right.
But he's also got a family, right? And there are some people who have said to me, and it's a tough one to take, I suppose, but, you know, people who commit suicide and who take themselves out of a situation are not thinking about anybody other than themselves. He's not thinking about his family.
It's a very, very selfish act. I'm so sorry, because if someone dies off of, I don't know, an accident or an illness, at least the family can actually process what happened and have an answer. When it comes to suicide, you're leaving your family and friends with this permanent guilt of what happened or what they could have done. And listen, my condolences go out to Jason Arday. I would never rejoice in someone's death, but what I refuse to do is allow the left-wing media to hijack this story and basically try to switch the narrative into him being the victim. I'm so sorry, but he is no victim. He done bad things. He committed fraud. He committed plagiarism. He lied. These are things that we've been taught since adolescence is wrong. But I'm starting to notice this pattern that wrong is wrong until an ethnic minority does it. Why do you get to kill yourself because you got caught doing bad things, plagiarism, fraud and lies, but you're the victim? Why do you get to groom a child, but yet you are the victim because you're Pakistan and Islamophobia?
And all these very privileged people, like that girl that we just watched, making a speech outside of the Cambridge University there, talking about how, you know, we don't belong, we don't have a voice. Well, she's literally talking to an assembled group of people from the press. She's giving her view. She's already at Cambridge University, so there's a pretty good chance that she'll get a good job because, you know, and many people will say, and I think there's been studies done, that now the large bulk of people, student-wise, inside of Cambridge and Oxford are from ethnic minorities because there is a bias against white people.
I just don't understand. The only people who are experiencing racism at this moment is actually the white indigenous people. Let's look at the case of Anne Widdecombe. For instance, when Anne Widdecombe was literally murdered, politicians in the media told us, do not speculate. But when Jason Arday literally murdered himself, allegedly, the politicians have allowed people to speculate, even speculating on things that literally make no sense, saying it was a racist boogeyman who hunted him in the middle of the night and told him, you need to kill yourself. So they're allowing these crazier speculations to run wild. But when it was Anne Widdecombe, people mocked it. They told us not to speculate. They told us that we don't want you to interfere with the investigation.
And lots of people on the left were saying very many disgusting things about her.
And notice how no one...
rejoicing in her death, effectively.
Exactly. And notice how no one on the right has actually rejoiced in his death. Yes, we've pointed out the truth, which is the fact that he committed fraud and he is no victim, but no one has laughed, no one has clapped, no one has actually mocked to the extent that the left wing, this is the group of people who claim they care about love and tolerance and peace and equality, but yet they are the most vile when someone passes away. So yeah, it is very, very tragic that he's passed, but I want to make it exponentially clear, he's no victim. He done bad things, and I'm so sorry, we should be allowed to call out bad behavior.
Of course.
We should be allowed to say
he's also
this
not
is
done
wrong.
his kind of, you know, elevation into such a high level job any favours. I mean, because now, because of him, the next time somebody who comes from his background gets promoted, people are going to ask the same questions now. So he's actually now skewered the whole pitch for everybody else.
I was literally telling my dad this yesterday. I said, now he's ruined it for every other black person, because people are going to think, oh, this black person got this opportunity or this Asian person got this opportunity because of DEI, when the reality is they actually may be really smart and hardworking. So he's not only ruined the reputation of Cambridge, he's not only ruined the reputation of his family, but now he's ruined the reputation of ethnic minorities. And I just think that, you know, it's tragic that he's passed, but he is no victim. And I think people should be allowed to call out bad behavior. This is how you create honest, high trust societies, by calling out, debating, and sometimes scrutinizing to a degree bad behavior. But when we sit there and we say, actually, no, wrong is wrong until it's a black person or Asian person, this is not fair treatment.
No.
This is not the equality that the left claim that they want.
No, exactly. And also, has he not done a disservice not just to Cambridge, but to higher education overall as well? Because he's exposed all of these people at Cambridge, these so-called, smart people, who now look just really stupid because they wanted to believe this kind of fairy tale. They wanted to believe the sort of thing that if you or I, or maybe not in your case, if you were, or I went to tell people, if I went in front of a crowd of people and said, I didn't speak for the first 18 years of my life, because I was completely mute until one day suddenly I woke up. I had this really bad car crash once and I nearly died. And you'd start to go, hang on, this guy's talking a lot of cobblers, right? I mean,
Exactly.
I climbed Everest when I was 7, It was that kind of level of delusion, wasn't it?
It was,
and nobody asked the question.
I was reading some of the lies, and he even lied about being in a TV show that wasn't even around. And
7 Up, right?
So it's just like, I don't think
which apparently was made before he was born, and nobody bothered to check it out.
I mean, that type of lying, I'm sorry to say this and excuse my language, but I think there might have been something mentally not okay with him, because there's no reason to lie. I mean, when I looked at the list of lies, there was about 60 to 70 lies that he told. It wasn't necessary. But again, he's just ruined the reputation of, Cambridge actually ruined their own reputation, because this was a very prestigious university. The best of the best, the most hardworking people get in, and they just allowed, Jason to come in simply on the basis that he's black. And I keep telling people, judging people and picking people on the basis of their ethnicity never works. I mean, you look at places like South Africa. South Africa was handed over to the ANC, which was like this black political group. South Africa is in ruin. It's literally in ruin. It's experiencing poverty. There's crime rates have gone high. As
are most countries in Africa, actually.
Exactly.
I mean, we're just talking about Ceuta there, and the people who are coming up through into Morocco from all sorts of places like Sudan, from Eritrea, from various different parts of the world, and they're all kind of ending up in Europe, and that's now ruining Europe.
Exactly. So you're seeing this decline of countries who continuously choose their politics on the basis of race. And when you actually look at the countries that said, actually, we're going to allow people to teach us how to do things, whether it's Singapore, whether it's the UAE, these are the people who actually went to the West and say, you know what, teach us how to do business, teach us how to do capitalism. They're thriving because they don't care about race, they just care about thriving. So it truly is tragic, and my heart does go out to him, because he actually could have come out a hero. If he just came out and said, you know what, I made a mistake, and dedicated the rest of his life to exposing DEI, he would have been a hero.
Is it possible? And because again, I don't know enough about the story, because he came very much out of the blue to me. I was not somebody who knew about his existence literally until 2 weeks ago. And we actually made him Plank of the Week a couple of weeks ago, because that's our kind of light-hearted show. Largely because he just told a load of lies and he was being exposed for it. Obviously we would never have thought that it would take such a tragic turn, the story. But a lot of people said to me, is it possible that he kind of started, like with some of these things, you start telling one lie and then people kind of elevate you, and then after a while you certainly tell another one, and it's sort of without him really understanding why it was going to happen. He became this huge figure and this kind of lightning rod for all of these woke people who wanted to see him as their kind of almost great black hope or something like that, Do you think that could have happened to him?
Yeah, that could have definitely happened to him. And the most unfortunate thing is that if he would have just held his hands up high and said, I lied, and then dedicated the rest of his life to telling the truth and exposing the lies of DEI and writing books on how DEI was a lot of mental and emotional pressure for him, he would have come out a hero. We've seen this so many times, for example, with the trans community. We've seen many trans people who transition, then they came out the other side writing books about how detrimental it is. There was always room for redemption, but what happened is he ended up being a victim of not only his lies, but also his inability to control his own emotions. Because to kill yourself over media press, we all know how the media works. 1 month you're the talk of the town, next minute it dies down. Everybody was going to forget, like you said, you didn't know he was. We would have all forgotten. So it's very, very unfortunate. But the troubling thing is that now that he is dead, anyone who criticized him, anyone who scrutinized him is automatically the bad guy in this situation, has automatically contributed to his murder, just due to the simple fact that he is now dead, and not due to the fact that he killed himself, he lied, he committed fraud. So yeah, I refused for the left-wing narrative to try to, the left-wing media to try to switch the narrative to make him this victim who is a victim of his external circumstances and not his own personal decisions. I'm sick and tired of it. I grew up in a household where telling lies was forbidden. I had very harsh consequences if I lied, if I committed fraud, if I cheated in a test, and I want the same for my children. I want to create a high trust, honest society.
Yeah, absolutely. And where were all his mates and his friends? You know, the people who elevated him, the people who praised him, the people who made him think that he was the God's gift.
That's probably why he killed himself.
Where were they all when he was feeling the way he was feeling? Because we've all been in bad places, I'm sure, over various different points of our life. And normally the people that help you are the people that love you, your family, you know, your friends, you know, maybe the work colleagues that have been with you all this time. And he clearly felt that there was none of that going on.
I think so, and that's the left exposed. I mean, they will build you up, and then once you know you've been exposed, they will just leave you for dead. And that's probably why he killed himself, because all of the people that supported him and boosted his ego and boosted his lies, they left him for dead, and he felt alone, and he probably allegedly ended up murdering himself, since there's no final answer on what happened.
Let's have a look at another clip. We've got Eni Aluko, who's been involved in various controversies in the past, right? Here she is now blaming the media for what happened.
In light of the tragic death of Jason Arday yesterday, first of all, I'd like to say rest in peace, and my deepest condolences to his family and friends. I can't even begin to imagine what they're going through right now. But they're not alone. We have written a collective letter, open letter to the Prime Minister. That letter has been signed by several individuals, many of whom are black, prominent individuals who have experienced the level of targeting and harassment and racially motivated harassment from the UK media. It's not something that we're going to continue to tolerate. We do believe now enough is enough, and the UK media have to be held responsible for their conduct. So we have written to the Prime Minister. There is a collective approach to this, which is very, very important from the black community. And if you feel as strongly as we do about the accountability and the responsibility of the UK media, please reshare the letter and the post, and would really appreciate your collective support.
So she's basically blaming the media for his suicide. She's blaming the racist media for his actions.
It's like, shut up. I'm so tired of it. Shut up. What are we talking about right now? And this is exactly what I said.
A very prominent woman in the media, by the way.
It gives me a headache at this point. I'm even getting migraines even talking about this, but it's exhausting, because like I said, this is what the left like to do. They like to blame things. They like to focus on external causation, meaning if something bad happens, it's because of your surroundings, because of the medias, because of the BBCs, because of GB News, and not because he literally, allegedly, murdered himself. It's because he decided to lie. He decided to cheat his way to the top. But they're blaming everything else but his own personal decisions. And I'm so tired of this. We can't continue to live like this. And it's always the case with ethnic minorities. It's almost as though fraud is wrong, death is wrong, killing is wrong, until as a black person, maybe we need to think of it because 100 years ago there was slavery. I'm sick and tired of it.
And also they talk about this whole kind of, you know, not belonging, and it's almost like imposter syndrome, you know. But it's black people saying that, you know, we have imposter syndrome because we've somehow found ourselves in this place where we don't belong and where nobody wants us, and that's why this guy's had to go and kill himself. No, that's not what happened. What happened was he was given a very prominent job in a very prominent university. I don't know how much he was getting paid, but he was probably getting paid pretty well. He was elevated beyond his endeavours, I would say. He was not questioned about some of the things he claimed he'd done. He was allowed to talk absolute utter rubbish for years, and people have told me as well that going back through his kind of history as a professor, he wasn't particularly good at it. So it wasn't as though, you know, if you met him, that you were suddenly blinded by this incredible, brilliant man. You know, we've all met clever people, and you kind of go, wow, there's a clever guy. You know, it doesn't sound as though this guy was in any way smarter than anybody else, and yet he was elevated to this level where expectations were so high that he obviously couldn't live up to them.
Exactly, and I see this narrative a lot amongst the ethnic minorities where they say they don't belong, we don't belong. No, he didn't belong there because even his own students were complaining that he wasn't really a good teacher and he was show up late to his lectures and he just wasn't that great at his job. So he didn't belong. And this narrative where ethnic minorities don't belong, it's not that we don't belong. You know, you can call this place your home. It's just I think ethnic minorities need to understand that this is not a country that we built. It's like me going to the UAE and saying, oh, it's not fair that I'm the first person to get a job. It's not fair that I'm the king, I'm not the queen of the UAE. No, this is not a country that was built by my ancestors. I'm somewhat of a visitor.
And guess what?
Here.
If you go to the UAE and you have a job, which is the only way you can usually get in, if you lose that job, unless you find another one, they kick you out.
Exactly.
Right? So they have a real sense of their own state. You know, they go, if you want to come and work here, that's fine. You have to live by our laws. You can't do what you could do at home. You can't go and have sex on a beach with somebody. You can't get wildly drunk and throw up in a bin next to the front of the hotel. You know, you have to behave in a certain way. I just wish we could be more like that.
It's like the UK is the only country in the world where someone can show up tomorrow and all of a sudden start expecting to be the king and queen of England and start expecting to be a lecturer at Cambridge. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
It just does not work that way. Exactly. You have to work your way through things, first and foremost. Let's start there. And third of all, you need to understand your surroundings. So it's not that ethnic minorities don't belong here. It's just our ancestors didn't build this nation. That way we're not well versed on how to run certain systems in this nation. That's why I'm so sorry we're not first picked. And if you do want to be first picked, you need to work hard, not because of DEI and because of your skin complexion, knowing you can't read or write or you've committed fraud and plagiarism lies. So yeah, I just want to live in an honest society because that's how you build high trust societies. And I'm sick and tired of, you know, people being demonized for telling the truth. I'm no big fan of mainstream media. I'm constantly scrutinizing mainstream media, but in this case, I don't think they did anything wrong. They told the truth. They told the truth of what happened.
They told, well, and his whole life unravelled because of the fact that he couldn't keep it together because of all the lies that he told.
Exactly.
And when he found out, he couldn't handle it. It's pretty much that simple, really.
This is why lying is never a good idea. I'm so blessed that my parents taught me to never lie, because imagine being this type of person, lying until you can't keep up no more and you end up committing suicide. It's sad and it's genuinely tragic, and my heart goes out to his family, but he's not a victim.
No, indeed. Great to see you, based in Drewgy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It'd be really nice to have you as a regular guest if you'd like to.
I would love
do that.
I'm a big fan of the show.
We are, the fastest growing television channel in the history of television channels, because we've got big shows coming up today. We've got Mark Littlewood and Paul Cox coming up at 10 o'clock, and then Ellie Hodges is going to be doing a show from midday every day this week, apart from Wednesday. I don't know what's happening. Oh, no, she's interviewing me on Wednesday, I think. So we'll keep it all in the family. But really good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And thank you. You've got a great reaction from the audience who all love what you're saying and absolutely think you're fantastic. So always very, very good to know that you guys appreciate what we're doing here at UK Live Online and on the Mike Graham Show. One and the same thing. It's going from strength to strength. Coming up, you're going to have my meltdown on the prisons disaster in this country. Right now, though, let's go over to Moscow and check in with our newsreader to find out what Fiona Mloud has to say for herself.
Hello, Fiona Mloud here with your Monday bulletin from Moscow. Overnight, Russia reported one of the largest Ukrainian drone assaults of the year, with hundreds of drones targeting the Moscow region. Meanwhile, back in the UK, Reform UK has set out plans for a major overhaul of the benefit system, aiming to cut £50 billion a year. This includes banning most welfare payments for foreign nationals, even those with EU settled status, and replacing personal independence payments with a tighter system focused on the most severe cases. Rain is finally on the way after the UK's fifth heat wave of the summer, which peaked at 38 degrees Celsius and triggered widespread wildfires. The Met Office says heavy rain will soak around 60 towns and cities on Tuesday, bringing cooler, fresher conditions. Elsewhere, residents are starting to return home after devastating wildfires in places like Stourbridge. British athletes have enjoyed a strong finish at the European Championships, and the Met Police has apologised after a data error exposed email addresses of alleged Mohammed Al Fayed victims. Uvidimся позже, alligator.
Brilliant. Fiona Mloud, I don't know what's going on, but apparently she's in Moscow. I can see red square in the background. By the way, if you haven't got it yet, Fake News is still in the top 5 of all the books on Amazon. In fact, I'm going to try, don't know if anybody else wants to do this for me, actually, because I haven't done. I meant to do it at the weekend. I'm going to try and wander into a Waterstones or somewhere and see if there is an actual physical copy of the book, because it's on the physical book charts now, not just on the online, ordering charts, if you like. So if you happen to be passing a bookshop, just go check out and see if they've got a copy of Fake News. And if they haven't, you can ask them to stock it, because I'm going to do a bit of that. I might try and do it. I've got a bit of a busy week, actually, a bit of a mad week, as ever. We had a very successful launch of our new show, which is called This Was My Life. Artur Savikis, who's my personal trainer, he went and did this big run on Sunday. I think it was around Richmond Park or something like that. The Spartan run, 21 kilometres, with all sorts of obstacles. And he did it in less than 3 hours, 2 hours, 53 minutes, I think. So he's pretty pleased about that. So we're going to be doing another one of those, hopefully tomorrow, with another amazing story of kind of recovery and survival. And this is what we're going to try and do, is tell ordinary people's stories about ordinary things that have happened to them, which have meant that extraordinary events then followed. In his case, getting stabbed in the neck when he was a young man in the middle of London, and almost dying before he left his job as a police officer and ended up now doing what he's doing. So lots and lots of stories, lots of great stories to be telling over the course of time, and we'll be trying to do one of those every Tuesday afternoon. Also, of course, we've now got The Thought Police, my new podcast with Lewis Schaefer, which we record on a Tuesday. There's 5, I think there's 6 of them out there already now, so go and check that out. These also on Spotify. We've got so much going on. I mean, it's no wonder I'm so busy. But I'll tell you what we're going to do now. Let's do My Meltdown. So this morning we've had a series of stories to talk about with regard to the justice system in this country. You'll have seen the story on the front page of The Sun, which is "Call This Justice." That's what it says. And the reason they say "Call This Justice" is because the story is about Henry Novak's killer, who's going to be allowed prison-to-prison video chats with his jailbird mum. Henry's grieving mum, however, can never speak to her son again. Why? Because he was murdered by a Vikram Digwa. You might remember him. His mother, of course, is doing time now. Her name is Kiran Kaur, because she hid the knife, the murder weapon, so the police wouldn't find it. And that is what caused her to go into prison. Now, we spoke to Colin Sutton earlier, who is, of course, the crime commissioner in Norfolk, and he said, well, sometimes things are not as straightforward as they appear to be. But what I said was, surely rather than saying to somebody like Vikram Digwa, here's an incentive for you to behave yourself because we will give you the right to speak to your mother on a video call, why didn't they make him earn it? Why didn't they say, I'm not totally against rehabilitating prisoners, although in some cases it can't be done. But surely the point is that you wouldn't give him the right to speak to his mother. You would say to him, if you behave yourself and if you prove yourself to be a decent rehabilitated character, and if you prove yourself to be sorry for what you did, then we might let you speak to your mother, and use it rather as an incentive instead of giving it to him and using good behaviour by him as an incentive to keep it going. Surely he should have earned it in the first place, because as we say, the problem for the parents of young Henry Novak is that they don't get to talk to him again. Inside it says another insult to Henry's memory. It's a blow for Henry Novak's family, because why on earth should it be happening? It shouldn't be allowed. And then we get another story on the front page of the Daily Mail today about the law which allows people who are in fact perverts, who are paedophiles, to change their identities in order to avoid being found out for what they've done in the past. So you could have a child who you're giving to someone to look after, and that person might be a paedophile. You could have a daughter, or you could have a sister who's going out with some guy that she met, who turns out to be some kind of sexual abuser. But she wouldn't know that because he's changed his name. There's one particular guy called Jason Brown, who's been dubbed a danger to women and children because he's been repeatedly changing his name to shield his criminal past. This is a guy who's been a former firefighter. He's 50 years of age, right? Every time he gets caught for doing something wrong, he changes his name. He was first convicted 12 years ago. He was labelled a monster after it was warned that he could disappear and start all over again if the law was not tightened. But the law has not been tightened, and so he can still do it. And that seems to me to be entirely ridiculous. And the final part of my meltdown on prisons today is that there's a brand new prison which has been opened up in the north of England, I think in Yorkshire, where there's 350 places which are lying empty in the midst of us being supposedly in one of the most overcrowded prison crises that this country has ever seen. We're told that there aren't any spaces in prison. We're told that this government is going to have to let go 450 people found guilty of manslaughter, including the killers of that young police officer, right, who was dragged underneath a car for over a mile, PC Harper. Absolutely dreadful story. He was married for just 1 month before he was killed. So his killers are going to be freed, along with about 468 others, because there's no room for them inside the prison system. And yet, the one prison that does have space for them cannot hold them. Why? Because of health and safety. Because it's not possible to keep them in there, even though the rooms are empty, even though the cells are empty. Why? Because there's not enough officers to look after them. The story is so ridiculous and so ludicrous as to me to say, what on earth is happening in this world of ours? I'll tell you exactly where the prison is, right? It is somewhere called HMP Millsyke near York. Started taking inmates in March 2025 and has space for nearly 1,500 prisoners, but there's only about 1,100 there at the moment because they haven't got enough people to look after them. The whole system seems to be a shambles. It comes as no surprise to you that the last Justice Minister was, of course, one David Lammy, who seems to have disappeared from trace. Nobody knows where he's gone. Nobody knows what he's doing. You never hear from him anymore. I'm not even sure who the new Justice Minister is. But the Home Secretary is still Shabana Mahmood, and she seems to have gone very quiet, doesn't she? Haven't heard much from her at all. So sort the prison system out. Do not let people out who are going to be a danger to our society. Do not use as an excuse the fact that you don't have any space, because you have. So the politicians need to stop lying, the prisons need to start working, and as Emma Woolf said earlier, why not just double up? And if you need to put prisoners into spaces which are too small, then tough, they'll just have to put up with it. And that's my meltdown for the day. This video is sponsored by Tally Money. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by CEO and founder Cameron Parry. Cameron, very good morning to you. Nice to see you. Tell us what Tally Money is.
Well, at Tally Money, you get a savings account powered by gold. So we give you a sort code and account number in your name, just like a normal bank account, but instead of sitting in pounds, you now have milligrams of gold that we brand as Tally.
Okay. And how does it actually work sort of day to day? Do you check the gold price every day? Do you need to do that? How does that?
We use the spot price, what's called the spot price in gold, and that updates every minute. It's a live price. We don't charge any premiums or FX margins on anything on that. You just go about your day as though it was any other mainstream foreign currency, except that you see all your transactions in real time and you're not getting charged international transaction fees and things like this.
Okay, so if I move some of my money into Tally, because I've just opened an account, what happens to it? And is it one of those things that I'll just be watching all day to go, ooh, look what's happening today?
You might do, but you've probably got better things to do with your time, to be honest, Mike. I don't actually think about the little movements in price, because I know over time that on average it goes up more than 12% per annum, and it has each year for the last 10 years. You know, bank savings products or current accounts just can't compete with that at all. But the main thing is my money's sitting there. It's my direct ownership of an asset. When I use my Italia card, in London to buy a cup of coffee, the merchant still gets pounds.
Yeah, okay. To find out more about Tally Money and for a special offer for viewers of the Mike Graham Show, simply scan the QR code or click the link in the description right here.
You're back.
Coming up to 9/11. It's amazing how often it is 9/11. I say that because it happens to me a lot. Of course, we've got the Chagos Island International Clock behind me because it's 10 minutes past 2 there. Here, of course, coming up to just after 9 o'clock, and we're here, of course, until 10 when it's time for Mark Littlewood and his oppo, Mr. Paul Cox, very funny man. They'll be doing 10 till 12. Then Ellie Hodges is here from 12 every single day this week, apart from Wednesday. Is it an hour-long show?
Yes, it is.
An hour long, so you'll enjoy that. And as we go forward, we're building more and more shows into the system. A lot of people say Based and Bougie should get a show.
Yeah,
we like her a lot, so we'll talk to her for sure. Right now, though, let's talk to Jeff Buys cars, I should say. You might buy them as well, but that's another story. Jeff, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Now, you're just the man to talk to because we want to talk about the surveillance state. And I mean, I imagine you, like me, had already disabled your severe alert on your phone. So I didn't get one on Friday night, but my son did. In fact, he got two as we were sitting out in the garden. Having had a barbecue, we managed to survive the barbecue, by the way, just in case you're wondering. We didn't burn anything down. You know, we turned it on, we turned it off. It's a gas barbecue, by the way, which I know a lot of people will hate me for. But it was all good, and I didn't really need to be told that there was a danger of fire, I don't think. Did you?
No, I mean, I sort of worked out using basic common sense that it had been quite dry for quite a long time. And if I was going to do something like, I don't know, put a disposable barbecue up in the Peak District, then my basic level of human intelligence told me that was not perhaps the wisest thing to do. We seem to be lacking that base level of human intelligence these days, though. Yeah,
but the trouble is now, though, the government thinks we're so stupid that they need to ban things. So now you can't even buy a barbecue if you wanted to, you know. So I'm not in favour of that. You know, I know there are stupid people around, but at the end of the day, I don't want the government banning things on sale just because there are stupid people around.
I think what we're seeing the same thing that we saw during coronavirus, in that they're just doing things to see how we react.
Yeah.
So if they send a text message out to the entire population saying, don't have a barbecue, what they want to do is work out what the general level of compliance is across the nation, so that they can work out what to do next time. I think the British public generally failed that test during coronavirus, so now the government feel like they can push us as far as they like. I mean, how insane is it that the government can send you a text message saying, don't have a barbecue? And people are starting to talk about, we actually went to a barbecue at the weekend, which they decided was going to be an indoor barbecue, where you not when you do your barbecue in your lounge, that's a bad idea as well. But they said an indoor barbecue, so we'll cook everything in the oven instead. But I mean, their barbecue was a stand-up one on a big stand, a big proper thing. It's not like we're going to go, put a disposable barbecue on top of a tree stump in Cannock Chase. So I don't know. I'm just my mind is boggling. I'm just despairing at the state of things right now.
Also, the time, as far as I can remember, the time they sent out the first alerts was quite late it was sort of mid-evening, wasn't it? So I think if you were going to have a barbecue, you'd probably already had it. So they're kind of shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted by saying, don't have a barbecue. And you go, oh, Christ, I've already had one. I've already eaten it.
So how many people, when they got that message then, panicked and went and put the disposable barbecue that they were cooking on in their wheelie bin? Because that's a whole other thing that's going on, isn't there? And then you've got, fires up and down the street where everybody's hot ashes are now in a wheelie bin. But I spent years living in Cornwall and working on beaches. And if you do that, you get to understand that portable barbecues, these disposable barbecues, they can be a pain. They do cause problems because people don't use their brains. So down on the beaches, we used to have an issue where people would have a barbecue on the beach. And then when the barbecue was finished, they'd cover it in sand. And then 2 minutes later, a child comes along and steps on it. So I do think we have a general problem with a gigantic decline in the level of basic common sense. But I didn't get any emergency alerts because I switched all mine off during coronavirus. But did you also see that in Wales, didn't they send some of the emergency alerts to people in Welsh? So there's people who are living in Wales who don't speak Welsh, texting their friends to try and find out why the government is texting them in a foreign language.
Yes.
It was all quite bizarre.
Well, exactly right. Yeah, Mark Littlewood's going to be covering that, I think. He was telling me that Wales got particularly badly treated by it. But yeah, there were people driving who thought there was something wrong with their car. The whole thing was insane. And of course, rather ironically, it was all apparently approved by Phones for Lou, as we like to call her, Louise Haig, who, as somebody said to me, must have had a hell of a racket going on in her house with all those stolen phones that sit in a drawer when they all went off at the same time.
So have we got a number yet on how much the emergency alert has cost the taxpayer? Do we know?
Oh, no, but I'm sure it'll be hundreds of millions because everything's hundreds of millions. And whenever I ask, well, how did it cost 100 million quid to do that? They just go, oh, well, that's what it cost. It's like, well, I don't know if I believe you, actually, because presumably somebody had to hit a button somewhere on a computer and it sent it literally sent a virus to every phone. some of which worked and some of which didn't. And now everybody switched them off anyway. So it was kind of counterproductive because there won't be a next time.
So it's just it's a way to spank a whole load of money on nothing that doesn't work. And funnily enough, whilst I was sat at the barbecue while we were waiting for the food to cook in the oven yesterday, we were only a stone's throw from where they're proposing to build HS2. And HS2 is very much the same sort of thing. They've done compulsory purchases on all the houses. They've shut down all the businesses. They're ploughing millions and millions of pounds into as far as I can tell, a train line that, what does it do? It goes from Birmingham to London, which we could do anyway.
Yes, it goes from Birmingham to London, slightly to the right of the place that you could already go from Birmingham to London.
Well, we're all slightly to the right these days.
Very good. I see what you did there. I came back. I was going to ask you a couple of driving questions, actually, because I came back from Manchester. I went to pick my son up in Manchester a couple of weeks ago. And I think I passed a section of HS2, and you might know where it is. It was kind of, as you come, I guess it was on the M6 before it merged into the M1. And there's this massive, what looks like a massive sort of bridge, which isn't joined up. You know, there's one side of it on one side of the road, the other side on the other side of the road. And it looks kind of impressive, you know, in the sense that it's big and it's kind of muscular looking, but there's nothing going on. And it's almost as though it would be great if there was a train running along the top of it, but there isn't. And it's going to cost another 100 billion before there is a train running across it. In fact, I'll be dead by the time they do that. And there's huge swathes of the country that they bought up, which they now have to sell back to people because now they're not actually taking it north of Birmingham where they thought they were going to go, up to Manchester. And the whole thing is just, it's a great sort of, I think, an example of what's wrong with Britain, basically.
Well, I think what you said there, that tagline that you said in that piece of conversation, it looks kind of impressive, but there's nothing going on. That's everything, isn't it? That's everything that the government seems to turn their hand to at the moment. Oh, we're gonna send an emergency alert to everyone. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
On you know, when it actually happens, it looks impressive, but there's nothing going on. So I don't know. I'm losing the plot with it all at the moment.
Yeah. The other thing that I noticed, and I don't know whether you can explain this because so far I haven't been able to find out quite what they are, but there's these new cameras we've got now on the motorway, and as I was coming down the M6, it was almost like every half a mile I was getting an alert, speed camera alert. And the ones that sort of hang like that, but they're round, and so they look a bit like the CCTV cameras that you have in a town, but they're on these very high poles, and they're sort of curved over, and they seem to be about, in some parts, about every half a mile. And I wonder if I presume they are speed cameras, but I presume they're also looking inside the car cameras as well.
Well, I think we've got a bit of everything going on the roads at the minute. I remember, I think it was about 5 years ago that I first started noticing strange cameras popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
And that was sort of on the in and out roads on every kind of town and village, on the main sort of thoroughfares going through. There's a particular type of camera which I recognised as being very similar to the ULEZ cameras, the ones they use in London.
Right.
And there's a whole load of questions about the true capabilities as to what those cameras are actually for. And like you say, it seems to be everywhere. And I think that there's a bigger conversation here to be had because it's multifaceted. Yes, they can get money out of motorists by charging them when they go 3 miles an hour over the speed limit, but I've always thought that what they're trying to do is get the infrastructure in so that they can get this pay per mile over the line. I've talked a lot about pay per mile on my channel in the last few years. You'll remember, I think it was Rachel Reeves said, we're going to bring in pay per mile for electric vehicles. It's going to be at 2 or 3 pence a mile initially, and we're going to do it on your MOT mileage, and it'll be like a self-assessment, like self-referring. Right. And I sort of called that and said, well, what will happen there is, after year one, when they realise that everybody's faked their mileage, which they're all doing at the moment, by the way, because it's much easier to clock a modern car than it is this Jaguar XJS that I'm sitting in.
Right.
Somebody's
asking, by the way, if that's mould on the roof. I mean, I presume it's not mould on the roof.
Well, you were talking about, I mean, we came online at 9/11, and I was going to use that as a great transition to explain what car I'm sitting in. But people that follow my channel haven't seen this car yet. This is a Jaguar XJS,
right.
And it is mould on the roof.
Is it?
I've got to redo the headlining because I do car stuff on my channel as well. I don't just talk about conspiracy theories. Sorry, the truth and facts that's going on in the world. Or at least they are after 3 months. But I've been documenting all of these cameras, and these cameras, like, they're not for you and I. They're not for the general good of the nation. They're not for crime fighting. So I think it's very important that everybody keeps an eye on their local area and their local roads. as to what is being installed, because there's all this AI stuff now as well. Catch you on your phone, catch you on your seatbelt, and
well, this is the thing. Once you start noticing, because I started, my son and I were kind of, just generally looking around, and I'd be going, look at that one over there, and then suddenly there's like a white squarish looking thing halfway up a pole, and you go, well, what's that then? And that's different from all the others. And then over there, there's a slightly different one again, which has got two prongs of what look like, cameras pointing in one direction. Then you've got the other one, which you see in London a lot, which is the very high one again, but it's a straight one directional camera as opposed to a round thing. So there's an awful lot of it going on, and I'm very puzzled as to what all of it is.
I had a really good idea live on air. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to launch a website called What Does That Camera Do?
Yeah.
And then when you see a camera when you're out and about, you can go, what does that camera do? And then you'll find a website which will host all of the reference materials for exactly what that camera is. And then people will be better informed on what's going on in their local area and what their local authority is doing, and also what they're paying for. So I think I might launch that later today.
I think that's a good idea. It's a great idea, actually. I'm very happy to have given it to you. But also, because the other thing is that not only will we then, because I've actually, as you might expect, I mean, in my capacity as a very, very investigative journalist, I Googled these cameras and I tried to find them. And you can't find them. There's no information about any of the ones that I saw on the M6, certainly. I could just not be very good at looking, but you might be better at it. But there's no explanation. I'd like to know exactly how much they're costing us as well, like every one of these cameras. Who's paying for it? These kind of old-fashioned questions that old-fashioned journalists like me used to ask when I was working in newspapers. And we'd put a reporter on it and go, let's go and do an investigation into this. Nobody seems to do that anymore.
No, but I'm actually being sued in the High Court this week for doing some investigative journalism, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
But as well with these cameras, as you say, it's very easy to drive along, look up and go, oh, there's a new camera. Well, there was a contract for that camera, so there would have been a draft as to what they wanted to achieve, as to, how did the contract get together for somebody to put that camera in, and then, as you said, somebody's paid for it. So there will be documentation somewhere to track the capabilities of the camera and the reason that the camera was installed. But there seems to be a lack of any investigative reporting these days. And then what happens is the people that do go and look into this stuff, they're just immediately branded as conspiracy theorists. So there are people out there that have done the research into what some of these cameras are for, and it gets really dark and it leads you down a really bad rabbit hole really quickly. And it's very easy to go, no, surely not. Surely the cameras can't be for that.
Right.
And it means people are, it's difficult to find the information because everybody that is finding the information is just being smeared as a conspiracy theorist because their theories are so wild. But if they're correct, then that's kind of worrying.
It is. Well, I mean, I've got this new book out called Fake News, in which I say, for example, one of the brilliant manoeuvres by Tony Blair was to introduce the Freedom of Information Act, because what they do is they use it to actually not give you the information. Because if you try and apply, for example, as a journalist for an awful lot of facts, they will quite often say to you, oh, well, this inquiry is too broad, you'll have to narrow it down a bit. Or if it's a bit too narrow, they'll say, well, we can't do that because it's too expensive. They find different ways of not telling you what you want to know. Whereas they think that you're buying into the fact that you're being given more information than you used to get out of the public sort of departments of the state before they introduced it.
Well, it's like anything. You have to put the boundaries around something before you can then apply restrictions to those boundaries. And if there are any conspiracy theorists watching in the comments, my phone fell off.
I thought you did that deliberately.
It did, because I was just about to say something really controversial. I was going to say, if there are any conspiracy theorists watching in the comments, have a look at the national parks in the USA, because prior to the national parks being designated a national park, it was just wide open space that everybody could use. But as soon as you designate something a national park, it gives you the ability to close it. It's quite interesting when you start diving into it.
That's very interesting.
One day we're going to do an interview where my tech doesn't fail.
Well, it is a Jaguar XJS, so of course it's failing. I mean, that would happen, wouldn't it?
You would expect something to break, wouldn't you, on a Jaguar XJS?
A mate of mine used to have one. It was a great car, but it was always breaking down. But I mean, that's the price you pay for driving around in Jaguars, I suppose. Finally, I was going to mention during COVID, where I used to walk the dog, Battle Woods, they shut them because they didn't want people meeting up in the woods and possibly talking to each other and giving each other COVID, or giving the dog COVID, which is even worse. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got to put those boundaries in place, and then once people understand and respect those boundaries, then you're able to close them. It always staggered me. I remember going to the USA probably 20 years ago, and on the evening they closed a beach, and I remember thinking that's insane.
Yeah.
I was very shocked 20 years ago when I went to the USA with the sheer power that the authorities seem to have over people. Not necessarily in terms of the true power itself, but the belief that the general public had in the power that the authorities held over them. And that's a very interesting thing as well. You know, are we governed by legislations and laws, or are we governed by our own belief that these things are actually real? You know, it's the prison of the mind. And I think you could free yourself from it by just doing a bit of research and understanding that there are ways around this stuff.
Well, there are. I mean, that's the thing about America as well, where people think it's the land of the free because they say that it's the land of the free, but it's actually not the land of the free at all. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can be stopped from doing by the local cops and by the local, you know, sort of authorities if they, as you say, they decide to close the beach. Who was it that went away during, was it COVID? There was a Tory minister, wasn't there, who said that he was on holiday, but they couldn't go swimming because they'd closed the sea. Who was that?
Yeah, it's bizarre. I think a lot of these places, like how can you close that? There's this thing going on in Wales as well, isn't there? Isn't there a beach in Wales that's owned by some French company? And lately, during the heat wave, they went and chopped the locks off it, and now there's all motorhomes living on the seafront. And I'm all for that. You should not be able to own a beach. You should not be able to own.
Yeah, in
a
fact,
river.
you're right. Because I was down in, where was I? Down in Devon somewhere, and apparently the beach is privately owned, and I'm like, not having that. You know, you can't privately own a beach. It's, you know, it's Britain. Sorry, that can't happen. But apparently there are places where some family. Oh, the phone's gone again. That'll be the dead hand of the, what do you call it, the goldsmiths reaching in and grabbing it or something like that. Anyway.
Well, it's one way to silence me, isn't it? So
It is.
Somebody is trying to silence me at the moment. We've got a very, very long and convoluted court case going on. And
well, you do start wondering.
I might be down in London later in the week, actually, to go and see a High Court judge because
well, come and see us.
On my channel.
Well, come and see us if you're around. It'd be good to see you.
Well, I was thinking, you know, you were talking before the intro about people that you want to give a show to. I think we could do a Jeff Buys Cars show on your channel, couldn't we?
Yeah, I'm sure we could. Absolutely. I'll talk to Pooch. He's the man to talk to. I'm sure there'd be...
Cars, coffee and conspiracy theories.
Sounds good to me. Excellent. We'll get you a proper stand for the phone as well.
Yeah, that would... I've been making YouTube videos for 5 years, and someone emailed me the other day saying, Jeff, I'm thinking of starting. What equipment do you use? And I said, I wouldn't recommend using what I use. I'm using a 10-year-old phone and a crappy camera mount, but it seems to work for me.
But the roof's looking terrific. I'm looking forward to seeing it refurbished and replenished in its original state.
I think there's a lot of people that are quite scared about what I might possibly do with a £1,500 Jaguar XJS, but all of this is going to be on my channel in the coming weeks. I've been very busy this weekend. Good. I also found some Volvo spray paint in my garage that is almost the same colour as this car, so I've started doing a respray.
Oh, good man. Excellent. Well, make sure you wear a mask, otherwise you might asphyxiate yourself. There's probably an alert for that I can send you, but I haven't got one at the moment. Great to see you,
Can you make
Jeff.
sure it's in Welsh?
Yes, I will. Absolutely right. Ancient Egyptian, I think I'll do one in as well. Great to see you. Jeff Buys Cars. What a guy. Only he could actually get away with sitting in a car with a mouldy roof and just think that's completely normal, which it is, of course, for him. Now, Jasmine Bertles is here. We're going to talk to her about Vodafone. Jessalyn Kane coming into the studio as well. Before that, though, should we get some news with Fiona Mloud?
Hello, Fiona Mloud here with your Monday bulletin from Moscow. Overnight, Russia reported one of the largest Ukrainian drone assaults of the year, with hundreds of drones targeting the Moscow region. Meanwhile, back in the UK, Reform UK has set out plans for a major overhaul of the benefit system, aiming to cut £50 billion a year. This includes banning most welfare payments for foreign nationals, even those with EU settled status, and replacing personal independence payments with a tighter system focused on the most severe cases. Rain is finally on the way after the UK's fifth heat wave of the summer, which peaked at 38 degrees Celsius and triggered widespread wildfires. The Met Office says heavy rain will soak around 60 towns and cities on Tuesday, bringing cooler, fresher conditions. Elsewhere, residents are starting to return home after devastating wildfires in places like Stourbridge. British athletes have enjoyed a strong finish at the European Championships, and the Met Police has apologised after a data error exposed email addresses of alleged Mohammed Al Fayed victims. Uvidimся позже, alligator.
Thank you very much indeed, Fiona. We've got some merch which we'll tell you about later, but we made a mistake earlier because we thought it was one size fits all for the old for the t-shirt. It turns out they're different sizes, so I don't know how that happened. But also, then we've got a bumper sticker that's one size doesn't fit any, so you can't put it in an envelope. It's too big.
Remember that footballer who's called Fitzhall?
Yes.
And his nickname was one size.
Brilliant. So anyway, we'll see what we can do about that. But anyway, sorry about if you have ordered anything, by the way, it's all getting done. It's all getting sorted. So it's en route probably very shortly. If you haven't got it yet, we'll get it to you very, very soon. I'm trying valiantly here to get something else to done. Oh, there we go. Got all that done. Yeah. So Jasmine Bertles is here. Let's talk to her. Jasmine, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Good to see you. Now, I went on a bit of a rant last week, the end of the week, I think it was Friday, when we saw the story in the... it was Dominic Raab, that was it. Dominic Raab was the guy who said the sea was closed. Went on a bit of a rant. There was a story in the Telegraph last week, Vodafone admitting that they're giving away something like 2,500 free SIM cards to migrants when they arrive in the UK, and then give them a free phone for use as and when. So I thought, well, I don't really fancy paying for that since I pay a Vodafone subscription, and I've got a Vodafone. Well, I've got an iPhone, which I got from them. So I decided to cancel my direct debits live on air on Vodafone. And funnily enough, over the weekend, I got an email from them saying, "We notice you've cancelled your direct debit. This is the easiest way to pay the bill." And I suddenly thought to myself, "Oh, okay. I'm now going to get into all sorts of trouble probably with my my contract with Vodafone." So I thought I might ask you what I should do next, or what I can do, what rights I have. If I want to change my supplier, are they going to hound me to the depths of hell so that I pay them all in one go, or what can happen?
It does depend on your contract. I mean, if you've got a few months left on your contract, that's your contract, and you're going to have to keep going with it. So it's a good idea to give them a call and tell them why you're moving and why you want to go. And tell them that, it's time that you think they ought to let you go. But what they are going to say is your contract is until whenever it is, January or whatever. And if you're going to leave now, you're going to have to pay the rest of that contract. That's annoyingly. But then they'll try and sell you something that they've got. Go, well, maybe it's just the wrong tariff. You go, no, it's Vodafone itself that I don't like.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know people that used to do this all the time and used to ring up various mobile phone companies and threaten to leave, and then they'd give them a much better deal. But I genuinely would actually rather not be with them at all. So, I mean, it's not about the money necessarily. It's about the fact that I just want to get out of it. Can you not pay it off in some way? If you pay the contract off, you can get out, presumably.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So if you're willing to pay the next 6 months or whatever you've got left over, then you can actually go. By the way, am I very bright here? I look in my computer. I look very bright.
You look as if you're well lit, but I wouldn't say I wouldn't say too bright. I don't think
it's a bit too bright. That's good. That's
Is that better?
Yes, that's a bit more normal. Thank you.
Okay.
Otherwise, I look like I'm sort of neon glowing.
Well, there's nothing wrong with glowing on a Monday morning. What's wrong with that?
Well, true. Yes.
It means you must have had a nice weekend. There's nothing.
Yes, absolutely.
But I mean, so because a lot of people have been saying the same thing. A lot of people who are of a similar, shall we say, bent in terms of their politics have said to me over the weekend, I've done the same. I've phoned Vodafone and told them I don't want a contract, and some of them have been told that they can get a different contract with a different company, but it's sort of still connected in some way, but it's not Vodafone. So that's also something that might happen.
Well, again, then you have to make a decision. Do you want to still be connected at all to Vodafone? Because if you do, then it's a good idea to look at the companies that are connected, because they are, they buy each other up and they connect up. So it is quite difficult sometimes to completely cut yourself off from one particular company. Yeah. But you can also say, if you've got broadband with Vodafone, Vodafone is the most complained about broadband to Ofcom, according to Ofcom's rules. Yeah.
Well, you know, I used to have Vodafone broadband, and they actually terminated it on the grounds that they couldn't make it into fibre optic broadband because in my building specifically, or in my street specifically, we didn't have it. So they kind of sacked me actually, and kind of said, "Look, we're terribly sorry, we can't provide you with broadband anymore." And I was like, "Why not?" Well, because it's no longer compatible with our system. So I had to go off and find a different one. You know, and it's really never been any good since, to be honest. But you know, that's just the way that goes, isn't it?
Yes, it is, absolutely. But I think if you are angry about something that a company has done, I think doing what you've done is exactly the right thing. You vote with your feet. If you don't like it, stop shopping there. If you don't want to use their services, stop using it. And at the same time, tell their CEO. And there's a website called ceoemail.com,
Right.
which it's a little bit old, to be fair. It's not necessarily up to date, but it's got email addresses of CEOs and MDs of big companies around the world. So if you want to really complain, you can send an email to them saying, "I have stopped my subscription to Vodafone. These are the reasons why. You should think about this again because this is an appalling thing," whatever it is that you're complaining about.
Right.
Do it properly.
Sure. I mean, I'm very happy to. You know, I don't mind spending time on this kind of thing because I think it's quite important, particularly when you've got these big giant companies that don't seem to pay any attention to their customers because they think they've got so many that they're kind of slightly offhand. And a lot of people have said to me as well recently that they've had dealings with Vodafone in the past and they literally don't care about customer service. They don't really give you very much back.
Yes, and broadband mobile phone companies are some of the worst. They are some of the worst at communicating. These communications companies are terrible at communicating, and I agree, they don't care. And I think what companies need to understand is that they need to look after people at home because it's this charitable wing of Vodafone and all these big companies that have their charitable wing. Well, charity has to start at home, and they need to understand we are a poor country. We have grinding poverty across the country. And when people who are already poor see companies like Vodafone giving freebies to people who've just come over here illegally, well, it's understandable that they're going to get angry and that they're going to do whatever they can to show their anger. And the best way, of course, is to just cut your contact with that company and tell them why.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely worth considering. Well, I'm gonna pursue it anyway and see how far we get. As far as the alarm, I thought I might ask you about this. You know, the alarm that went off on Friday for a lot of people. It didn't for me because I'd already sort of silenced it without remembering that I'd silenced it years ago. Again, something which is a sort of imposition on our own personal freedom. I know some people might say, "Oh, well, it's only an alarm. What are you worried about?" I don't wish to be sent things by the government that I haven't asked for. Frankly, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, like you, I opted out. I think it was during COVID. It was
Yeah,
a
I
few
think
years
so.
ago I opted out because, I mean, apart from anything else, it really honestly feels like it's an attempt to scare, to worry, to upset people. Because the alarm it's really loud. I didn't hear it, but I was told, you know, a friend of mine was in the supermarket and a load of them went off. She thought it was a fire alarm.
Right.
Because a load of people's phones went off. Well, you know, if it is the start of World War III, okay. All right, although even there, frankly, I don't think it's helpful to have a big alarm thing. But I can't see a reason why you should have to have one of those ridiculous alarms that everybody's phones go off, other than to upset us, honestly. And particularly with this one, you know, big alarm, don't use barbecues. Like, what?
Right.
What? Is that seriously what you're going to send us a big alarm for?
Yeah.
And I've heard that it has actually bounced back against them because a lot of people are so irritated at it. They have opted out, and quite right too. Actually,
Well, they have.
I don't remember what I did, but I remember opting out.
Well, I remember getting the setting changed on my phone without my permission, and I remember that was what kind of caused me to go, hang on a minute, what's this all about? Is this because it was at the time when we were being told that we were kind of more or less under surveillance and that you had to give an email address every time you went into a bar, or you had to sign, or you had to get you remember there was that app you were supposed to have, and then there was a fake app that did the rounds that people just showed, and most of the people that you were showing it to didn't really care anyway. And I'd never bought into any of it basically. And as soon as I saw that they had basically installed an alarm on my phone without my knowledge, I was like, I'm just not having it. I tried to delete it
same.
altogether, and I think I
Yeah.
just managed to just mute it or something like that. So mine didn't go off. In fact, it was only my son's that went off because he's got a relatively new phone. And we were just sitting outside in the garden, having just had a barbecue, funnily enough, to be told, don't have barbecues. I was like, what the hell is that? And in fact, there's a piece in the Telegraph this morning which highlights how back in the day when they came up with this original plan, they were told by the Cabinet Office and the Cabinet Secretary, don't overuse it because people will rebel and then it won't be worth using at all. And that seems to be what's happened.
It's already happened, absolutely. And certainly it makes me think, well, I'll have a barbecue then.
Yeah.
You know, it just makes you
have
want to
two
do
barbecues. Have a barbecue every couple of hours, you know.
Yes. Just to annoy them. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I think, definitely.
And how ironic is it that Louise Haig, the woman who likes to report stolen phones haven't been stolen, is the person sending the alarms out?
Yes, exactly. And it does show we've got a wonderful cabinet with people. We've got Angela Rayner done for housing costs, and we've got Louise Haig done for actual fraud. And that's the level of our cabinet. Thank you very much. That's just great.
And we didn't actually put them in charge of anything really, but there we are. Anyway, listen, Jasmine, good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while. It'd be nice to see you in the studio one of these days, but if we can, that would be lovely. Jasmine Bertles, ladies and gentlemen, from moneymagpie.com, a good place to go for advice. So that's some good advice from her. Jess Kane is here. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. Before I come to you, I've got one more clip we need to play, which is Intel Lady. Who's very funny, one of our favourite people. And we were just talking about the cabinet there. Here she is talking as if she is Bridget Phillipson.
As Minister for Women, now we know what one of those is, and Equalities, as well as the new party chair, it's down to me to speak to the public about all of the fantastic things us Labours have been getting up to, like Prime Minister Burnham making loads of really hard-hitting TikTok videos all about his favourite bar snacks, running with celebrities, and which bakes he likes best from Greggs, as well as talking about shops from the good old days. That's what we'd rather the public were looking at right now. Instead, I'm having to come here and talk to you about a person we hardly ever mention, and that is Nigel Farage. This week, Nigel Farage won his by-election in Clacton, a by-election that he chose to call. He did not need to do that. Us Labours would not dream of calling a by-election unless we were absolutely desperate. It's something you don't do because it's a massive waste of public funds. Yet he felt the need to do it, and we know why. You see, Nigel Farage, you can hide as much as you like behind by-elections, but when that's over and done with, there's still questions to be answered. You might suggest that us Labours are completely obsessed with you, that you live rent-free in our heads, but that could not be further from the truth. We just want to know why you think it's acceptable to take large sums of...
Bridget Phillipson. I mean, brilliant, isn't it? It's absolutely... I mean, you'd think it was her in the same room. She's actually slightly better looking. Actually, she's a lot better looking, to be fair. Meanwhile, we're nearly at the end of the show. We've got lots going on. 10 o'clock, we've got Mark Littlewood and Paul Cox coming on. And then we've got Ellie Hodges with the show at 12 o'clock every day this week, except for Wednesday. But today, tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. Jess Kane is here as well. Jess, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. Happy Monday. It's 9:45. It's Monday the 17th of August. What do you got for us, Jess?
So, I have been alerted to a situation at Basildon Borough Council.
Okay, in Essex?
In Essex, yes. And I got alerted to it because someone was saying the mayor of Basildon Borough Council, Councillor Sam Genet, was going to be removed, usurped as the mayor.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked into this because I thought, what's going on here? That doesn't sound very constitutional.
Right.
And I found Councillor Gavin Callaghan. He is the Labour leader of the opposition, and he used to be the council leader. He has a habit of releasing AI slop all over his Facebook for people to lap up, basically. And all of these claims that he's producing are quite unsubstantiated, even.
Right.
it wasn't just that. In April 2026, quite awfully, he released an anti-Semitic AI
I remember
video.
this, yeah.
Yes, this is him, Councillor
Yeah.
Gavin Callaghan, and it actually included some anti-Semitic language over Tory councillors.
And didn't he say, wasn't his defence that he hadn't seen it or something before he put it out?
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
He did apologise and take it down,
Right.
but he is still persisting with consistent uses of AI slop.
Okay.
Now, what I find quite interesting about Councillor Gavin Callaghan is he used to be the head of political management for Andy Burnham under his 2015 leadership campaign.
Okay.
So, and he's still publicly very pro-Burnham. He's released a couple of articles gassing him up. In July 2026, he wrote an article in his favour. So I'm assuming he's still good buddies with Mr. Burnham.
Right.
And there have just been some awful things I have seen underneath his previous premiership, not just the AI slop, but he famously tried to cancel the council elections. Residents stormed the chamber and said, "Shame on you."
Is this during the time when Starmer was trying to cancel them?
This
when they
is,
were all going along with it, and they were
Yes.
saying, both the Tories and the Labour Party, saying, we
this
don't
is
want to do it.
January this year, I think.
Yeah, right.
And
Before reform's judicial review, effectively.
quite right.
Yeah.
And in the end, the elections happened and Labour got absolutely scuppered. He's now leader of the opposition there. But it does make one wonder, when there were so many failings under his leadership, the regulator of social housing gave Basildon the lowest consumer grade, C4, after finding very serious failings. Basildon also failed to self-refer, which was considered a very serious failing. And now on the 15th of July, the Housing, Communities and Local Government Ministry have issued Basildon a best value notice because this is going to start a review into the whole council because of concerns over the governments and administration. But my question is, why hasn't Andy Burnham sort of, got rid of this guy, Councillor Gavin Callaghan?
Well, I suppose if he's an elected councillor, he can't get rid of him. Well, he could kick him out of the Labour Party, I suppose, if he wanted to. But is it now a reform council? Is it now
It's a Conservative borough council, but Reform are propping them up, basically. So the mayor, Councillor Sam Journet, is a Reform councillor.
Okay.
But I do think that Andy Burnham should suspend this councillor, because we saw in May, Kemi Badenoch, she suspended a Worcestershire county councillor who was leader of his Tory group for going against the party line. And I think that consistent AI slop and...
When you say AI slop, for people that might not know exactly what that is, what is that exactly?
So it's AI generated material, which is... It's produced to sort of pull the wool over someone's eyes. And for someone like my nan, for example, she would read that and believe it. Also, if it's coming from...
So does it tend to be pictorial? Does it tend to be pictures
Pictorial,
of things?
definitely, with lots of writing over and just loads of nonsense in the text. He was saying stuff like, Councillor Sam Journet, he's been sacked from his position in Essex County Council. Well, I checked, he's not been sacked. It's a load of nonsense. He's going to be removed as the mayor. It's a load of nonsense again. This is
so it's sort of propaganda, effectively.
It is, and this is not acceptable behaviour, in my opinion, from an elected official.
But the problem is, of course, that some of these councillors, no doubt, will take their lead from, say, whether it's Downing Street or Labour Party HQ, where lies are pretty much run-of-the-mill. I mean, some of the stuff that they come out with on a regular basis, I think he's trying to be slightly less disingenuous than Starmer was. But I mean, Starmer's government issued lies all the time, and I mean, I keep repeating them. NHS waiting lists coming down, the lowest waiting lists in 17 years, all rubbish because they were just removing people's names from them. Similarly, Rachel Reeves, when she left the Treasury, left the Chancellor's job, saying, we've left the economy in better state than it was. I was like, no, you haven't. You literally haven't, And all of these things, we're going to get 3.5% of GDP into the defence budget. No, you're not. You could literally come out with one lie after another for every day of the week. So that's probably where he's taken his lead from, just to keep saying things in the hope that people will listen to them often enough and believe them.
At least the government isn't producing such vicious AI slop.
No.
This is where the line, for me, I think really needs to be drawn. And there is something very quickly I'll add, which I also found absolutely outrageous. There was previously a police investigation, it's now concluded, but in March 2026, so Councillor Sam Journet, he was the only Reform councillor at the time, and the Labour councillor Victoria Joseph, her name is. Yeah. It was a heated council meeting, and at the end she said to Councillor Sam Genet, "I'm going to kill you, I'm going to end your life." She also said something similar and screamed it into a resident's face. And Councillor Gavin Callaghan has come onto social media again, and he has said this is absolutely not true, to the point that the leader of the council, the Conservative leader of the council, has had to come on social media in the last couple of days and say this is absolutely true. Councillor Sam Genet was threatened with his life, and the police were summoned to the council chamber.
Blimey. What's going on in these councils? I mean, it sounds mad. It's like the Wild West.
Exactly. And I just think it's really important for people to know what their elected officials are getting up to.
And the trouble is, right, Andy Burnham keeps talking about devolution and giving more power back to these councils and giving more money to them so they can spend it better. And I'm thinking, I don't think you want to be giving money to these people, because I don't think they know what they're doing with the money they've already got. Never mind. I mean, we were just talking to Jeff Buys Cars there about all these new cameras that are going up. There's surveillance coming in. There's paper mile. There's all, you don't want to start giving more powers to some of these crazy people in councils, because they don't appear to be very accountable.
Well, there seems to be not a very good level of training given either. And yes, the accountability is really poor. You know, Woking Borough Council, £4 billion of debt. And were any of the councillors ever prosecuted for it? No, they weren't. We need to incorporate this into the law if we're going to go further with devolution, because you can't let councillors get away with.
Well, one of the things that nobody talks about as well is that part of the reasoning that was given at the time for the council elections not to go ahead was of this kind of, coagulation of administrations, that they were changing, particularly in Sussex, East Sussex, West Sussex, they were changing the overall makeup
I'm
of the
going
way.
there actually next month.
Oh, are you?
I'm going
Okay.
to be interviewing 2 Reform councillors
In East Sussex.
Yeah, they're Peacehaven, I believe.
Okay, because the problem is they're going to set
going
up
into Brighton.
Yeah, they're going to set up this whole situation in Brighton where there's going to be a sort of mayor of Sussex, if you like, based in Brighton, and people who live in other parts of Sussex are kind of going, well, how's this going to work exactly? Who's going to be running, for example, Hastings Borough Council, which is currently there, or Rother Borough Council, and nobody seems to know the answer to any of it.
No, exactly. Well, I'm really interested to go there and sort of find out more. Definitely. Well, also, Brighton's a city of sanctuary.
Right.
So will that now extend to Peacehaven, which is now going to be absorbed into Brighton?
Yeah, will the whole
City
county
Council
become a county of sanctuary?
Yeah, and do the residents really want that? I don't think so.
I very much doubt it. No, absolutely right. Well, great to see you. Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Jess Kane, ladies and gentlemen, doing a bit of independent investigation, which is what we do here at the Home of Common Sense. We try and get to the truth for you. If you've got anything that you want us to try and figure out or chase or find out about, Jess is your girl. We'll pass it on to her and she can get on with it. We've got almost the end of the show looming. A couple of super chats before we start getting into Pooch's Pooch. What have we got? This from Russell. It says, great show today, Mike. Brilliant guests. Yeah, the guests have all been great today. Been fantastic. Don't matter what religion, race or class you are, common sense is common sense, says Just Josh. Very true. We don't like to make any remarks about religion particularly here, because common sense is common sense. Therese Korbach-Basher, thank you very much indeed for your super chat. One here from, another one from her. Thanks, Therese. Keep them coming. It keeps us all going. Hi, Mike and everyone. My first morning with the show, even though I've followed Mike on the radio for a long time, says Speen Bridge. Well, welcome. Where can we get Mike Graham merchandise from? Well, it's the UK Live Online website, which I'm pretty sure is ukliveonline.com, but I'll check it out because we're at the moment just going through all the various nice time, Mike. Yeah, it's one of Jeff Banks's, Denise. Thanks very much. Mike, you need to get Starlink, best system I've had for the internet and under your own control. I've heard that. I have heard that, and it might be something I'll do going forward, if you like. But at the moment, I pretty much just use 4G and 5G for everything because it's better. Because for some reason, the broadband in the building that I live in has always not been brilliant. It's just always been shall we say, underperforming. Right. Anyway, coming up very soon. It's going to be 10 o'clock and you're going to have the new show, which was on last week, of course, as well. Mark Littlewood and Paul Cox. Littlewood and Cox, we're calling it. But before we talk to them to find out what's coming up on their show, let's do a little bit of Pooch's Pooch. I think you're going to like this one. A bit unusual. Sorry, you're welcome to Britain. You don't like dogs, sorry, tough. How about this? Johnny Gould has sent a nice note. He says, fantastic, Mike. Many congratulations on all you're achieving. You're injecting a completely new spirit into what had become a jaded media environment. Yeah, I think so. How about this from, where are we? Somebody called Carol. Worryingly, I noticed a lot of attention in the media to murder my dog. This has captured my attention and I will follow closely. Is this the start? As we know, a certain religion hate dogs and want them gone. It was only last week a man was bullied out of a local park because he was with his dog. The poor dog became so distressed. I live in rural Yorkshire where we are dog lovers in droves. Well, the whole country's dog lovers, really. And I think you should embrace it. I never thought of that, but I would say watch this space because this very well could be the start of another dark place we're going to. I don't agree, actually. I think in this particular case, it's just an unusual story. I don't know the details of it because we'll find out once the trial comes along. So anyway, we shall see. That's the end of the show pretty much, isn't it? Are we able to go over to the next studio? Look at this. Listen, this is great. First time ever, Dr. Paul Cox in the house. And he's not a real doctor, you know, he plays one on TV.
Don't let me touch you.
Yeah. Anyway, good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning, Mike. How are you doing? What a great show you've had this morning.
It's been brilliant, hasn't it?
Full of energy.
I came in this morning just full of the joys of spring because, you know, sometimes you wake up on a Monday morning and you kind of go, oh, it's Monday. But actually, yeah, it's been, the guests were brilliant, thanks to Charlotte setting them all up. And Alina was here as well. So we had a bit of a touchy start where we couldn't switch anything on. And it was all in darkness. But then sort of Pooch swooped in and worked his magic. And here we are now doing the sort of thing they do on very expensive channels where they can actually have proper handovers. This is brilliant, isn't it?
I know, this is incredibly professional. People are going to start turning off if they think that we've reached this level of professionality, Mike. That's not what they're here for.
No. Anyway, listen, I was speaking to your partner in crime, Mark, earlier about how you're going to be exploring what happened in Wales with the old super alarm that went off on Friday night. Apparently, it was all in the wrong language.
Mental. Absolutely incredible, wasn't it, that alert? Yeah, I think it's actually caused a bit of a problem for Mark, and we'll get on to that in a minute, Mike. But we've got a fun-packed show. Really looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, for the next 2 hours, you will be severely entertained with, never mind the severe alarm, severely entertained by Paul Cox and Mark Littlewood. It'll be brilliant. Good luck to you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. And after that, of course, Ellie Hodges joins at midday for yet another great show of hers. So we're really rocking and rolling here at the Mike Graham Show and at UK Online. And we'll tell you more tomorrow about the merchandise scenario because there's a couple of things we just have to fix before we start getting you to order your T-shirts and stickers in droves. If you fancy one of these for the back of your car, how about that? Or just stick it in your house somewhere. It's nice, isn't it? I might give Jess one for free. Now, we will see you tomorrow. Thanks to Elena, thanks to Charlotte, thanks to all of the great guests, Emma Woolf, Mark Littlewood, Christo Fufas, Mark Lupart, Kinson, Colin Sutton, Based and Bougie was great for the first time, Jeff Buys Cars, Jasmine Bertles and Jess Kane. We'll see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. sharp.
The revolution will be televised.
Good morning, common sensors. Paul Cox here for the Littlewood and Cox show. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Coming up on today's show, we've got Alan Miller, Will Kingston, Steve N. Allen and Patrick Basham, otherwise known as Basham. We've also got a massive production team here, hundreds of people. There's people under the desk fluffing me, keeping me ready for the whole show. I've got to keep this up for 2 hours. That doesn't happen without help Thank you very much down there. But in the production team, we have Luke the Duke, Scarlet the Prince, and of course our king, Puccio. So I am in safe hands today. But you're asking the big question, and I know what it is. Where's Mark Littlewood? I'm asking the same question too, because he should absolutely be here, and he's not. Let's find out where he is today. Hello, Mark. Where the hell are you? I did get the government's emergency alert and then swiftly ignored it, Mark. What happened when you got it? Thank you. So let me just get this. Let me just get this straight, Mark. You are still in your bunker because you received the message in Welsh, which you have yet to translate, and assume the message from our government was serious. There was no. Well, I mean, it did wind a few people up, Mark. Did you have any open flames next to cornfields at the weekend? That's pretty dangerous. You will, I think, be careful because you will end up in Burnham prison for that. But the message wasn't, there is no nuclear war, Mark. There's no alien invasion. There's nothing. You need to, have you not seen the English version of the message? I survived it by putting a shorts and t-shirt on, pair of comfortable sandals, and carrying on with my life. The message was to tell us that, God forbid, you should have a barbecue. If you do, you might burn the whole country down. And that message went off at 7 o'clock, of course, as you're aware. But it also went off at 7:20, 8:30, 9:10. Some people got it about 15 times, Mark, in English. I've not seen it in Welsh, but it essentially amounted to the square root of what they know as F all. So, Mark, you should have come out the bunker. Once you translate the message, you're going to feel a bit foolish, my friend. Why not?
Bye. 20 seconds.
How are we getting on with the sound issue? Okay.
It's quite quiet, but I don't know. We're as loud as we can be here. Five seconds. 3, 2, 1.
Well, I'm under the impression that not everybody could hear that clip. However, essentially, that was a Welsh guy complaining that he too, much like Mark Littlewood, could not understand the message because it was in Welsh. I mean, I don't know about you at home. That guy didn't look especially Welsh to me. But hey, this is 2026, so who am I to judge? Mark, do you now understand?
Right. Okay. So it looks like I may have overreacted a little bit here, Paul. But, Yeah, well, I was also told that lots of people were phoning the police because their neighbours were having barbecues. Is that the sort of country we live in these days? That sounds pretty crazy. And look, we've got a bit of a problem with the Welsh language thing, haven't we? I mean, how's your Welsh, Coxie? Are you fluent or you know, can you just get by in Welsh? Yeah, those are very, very different languages, it's fair to say. Yeah. Well, let me tell you about some of the problems you can run into on Welsh, right? If we pull up image 14, team, right? As you know, over in Wales, everything is bilingual, so all road signs and everything have to be in English and in Welsh. So if you drive around a lot in Wales, it's a while since I've been there. You start to pick up what the Welsh language is for things like go slow or whatever, right? So if we can put image 14 up, we got that. There you go. Okay, so there's image 14. No entry for heavy goods vehicles, residential site only. And there you can see Welsh. Now, Coxie, have a go at translating that Welsh, will you? I mean, what do you reckon it says? Well, yes, but imagine a world in which you are a Welsh speaker and not an English speaker. So you are reliant entirely on what's at the bottom. And it actually reads at the bottom, Cox, it says, I kid you not, this is in Swansea in 2008. I am not in the office at the moment. Send any work to be translated.